Chapter 2711. Treacherous. Too sinister. Yin Junfei was so angry that she gritted her teeth, her expression savage. Her figure speedily retreated backwards, avoiding Yi Qing Luo's palm. She turned around and stared vigilantly at Yi Qing Luo. Yi Luo, you're just an abandoned woman who's been abandoned by the Overlord, without any power or influence. How dare you lay a hand on the few of us? Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to walk to the Miao Stockade village alive? Yi Qing Luo was tickled. Before this, you should be more worried if you still have a life to see me walk to the Miao tribe alive. How dare you? Yin Junfei gritted her teeth. Do you know who I am? Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she didn't think much of it. Do you know before Xian? Before the Overlord appeared, how did I? Topple the Battle King's manor, topple the Miao tribes. Former clan leader? Shock flashed across Yin Junfei's eyes. Apparently, he didn't know what had happened to Yi Qing Luo in the northern continent. This look of astonishment made Yi Qing Luo have a new guess. She laughed softly as her gaze seemed to shoot a glance towards May's direction. Miss Yin seemed to trust Miss May a lot. Yin Junfei's pale face darkened. How could she not hear the ridicule in Yi Qing Luo's tone? Indeed, she will appear here. He would help May deal with this woman, called Yi Luo. It was because of May's request. Because May had said that this woman called Yi Luo was once favored by His Majesty. When Di Zun was mentioned, Yin Junfei thought of the woman she hated so much. Yi Qing Luo. That was the slut who had caused her to fall from the high and mighty miss of the Yin family to this day. She had to rely on her own beauty to drag out an ignoble existence, especially when he heard the woman's name, Yi Luo. The more Yin Junfei wanted to eradicate this. Yi Luo, who is similar to Yi Qing Luo in all aspects. From May's description, Yi Luo was just an arrogant, despotic, and lawless idiot who relied on the Lord Di Zun's favor. Yi Luo himself did not have any strong points. But now, he had been abandoned by the Overlord. She was just an abandoned woman. Now, Yin Junfei understood. She was being used by May. I'll believe whoever I like. It's none of your business. Yin Junfei suppressed the anger in her heart. Yin Junfei was not stupid. If she confronted May about this matter at this time, he even used this as an excuse to argue with May. In the end, the one who benefited was Yi Luo. In the end, it was still Yi Luo who was watching the show. Yin Junfei clenched her fists and suddenly smiled. Yi Luo, don't compare me to the warlord's mansion in the Miao tribe. Let me tell you, no matter how much ability you have, even if Yi Qing Luo herself is here, this miss can still make you kneel down and beg for mercy. Yin Junfei raised her head arrogantly like a rooster that had won a fight. Sun Yutong, come here and tell her who I am. On the other side, Sun Yutong, who was still supporting Plum, trembled slightly when she heard this. He seemed to be instinctively afraid of Yin Junfei. I asked you to come over, so why are you still standing there? Yin Junfei already had a bad opinion of May. Seeing that Sun Yutong was still supporting May and ignoring her orders, Yin Junfei felt a little annoyed. Instantly, he felt indignant in front of Yi Qing Luo. She vented all her frustrations on Sun Yutong. Sun Yutong was shocked by Yin Junfei as she immediately retracted her hand and jogged towards Yin Junfei's direction. May, who had lost her support, fell heavily to the ground again. However, Chapter 2712. Sun Yutong jogged over to Yin Junfei and called out in a low voice, Sister Yin, do you need me to repeat myself? Yin Junfei's tone was heavy, full of danger. Sun Yutong was so frightened that her entire body trembled and her eyes reddened. No need. Sister Yin, don't be angry. Sun Yutong's attitude towards her successfully pleased Yin Junfei. It seemed to satisfy her vanity to be above everyone else. Yin Junfei intentionally threw a provocative glance at Yi Qing Luo. It seemed to be telling Yi Qing Luo, see how powerful I am. Towards this, Yi Qing Luo expressed. Plus, he rolled his eyes. In the eyes of Yi Qing Luo, Yin Junfei's arrogant behavior was called bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Bullying those who were weaker than him was just to show off his nobility. On the contrary, it made Yin Junfei's status even more awkward. Sun Yutong raised her head and looked at Yi Qing Luo. His eyes were filled with jealousy and hatred towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Luo, don't think that because of the Overlord's protection, you destroyed the Battle King's residence, destroyed the former Miao tribe, and even destroyed the Northern Wave's royal family. But now you're the Overlord's abandoned wife. Sister, Yin is a god you can't afford to offend. Where did this girl learn such shenanigan lines? When Sun Yutong said this, she became more confident. Sister, Yin is not someone from the Nirvana realm. She is a distinguished messenger from the upper realm. A messenger from the upper realm? His words caused the onlookers to burst into an uproar. This road was the only way to reach the Miaogu clan. Because of this, most of the carriages that appeared on this small path belonged to the various forces that were heading to the Miaogu clan to watch the Holy Maiden selection. Naturally, they understood very well how unattainable the upper realm was for them. This Miss Yin was actually someone from the upper realm. The way the surrounding people looked at Yin Junfei changed. Yin Junfei enjoyed this look very much. He enjoyed the feeling of being revered and subdued by tens of thousands of people. The smile on her face became more and more arrogant. There wasn't even half a shred of the wretched and fearful state when he faced Yi Qing Luo earlier. However, reality did not develop in the direction they had imagined. Yi Qing Luo didn't kneel down to beg for mercy because of the shock. On the contrary, he was looking at them with a faint smile. The brilliance between his brows floated, as if he was mocking them, but it also seemed like a casual smile. The upper realm? Miss Yin? You don't believe me? Sun Yutong saw Yi Qing Luo's expression and immediately put on a straight face as she took out the invitation letter from the Miaogu family from her sleeve. Take a good look at it yourself. What's written on the invitation? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as she fixed her gaze over. On the open invitation letter, there was a delicate handwriting that said, Palace of Darkness Emissary, Yin Fei Fei. Dark Palace? Yi Qing Luo muttered these 3 words word by word. He lifted his head. She looked at Yin Junfei's smug face, waiting for her to be scared, flustered, and begging for mercy. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes. What place is this? The smile on Yin Junfei's face froze. Sun Yutong's complacent mood also froze on her face. You're doing this on purpose. Sun Yutong was hopping mad. Palace of Darkness. Don't you know what kind of place Palace of Darkness is? I've only heard of the Imperial Palace. Yi Qing Luo shook her head honestly. Yin Junfei's steely green face started to darken bit by bit. Chapter 27:13. When the surrounding crowd heard the name, Palace of Darkness, all of their faces turned pale instantly. The way they looked at Yin Junfei was not only filled with admiration when they heard that she was a messenger from the upper realm. It was mixed with a sliver of fear. Yes, it was fear. Palace of Darkness. It's the messenger from Palace of Darkness. Is it that Palace of Darkness whose power had expanded to the point where it was second only to the Imperial Palace in just half a month? I heard that. Palace of Darkness had recruited numerous elites, and many cultivators who were rated as geniuses were all recruited by Palace of Darkness. I heard another rumor. As long as one could enter Palace of Darkness and become a disciple of Palace of Darkness, as long as one had an outstanding performance and made a huge contribution to Palace of Darkness, one would be able to become a member of the upper realm directly. Right. I also heard that as long as one entered Palace of Darkness, the speed of advancement is simply shocking. One person mentioned Palace of Darkness. Following that, numerous people started to talk about the rumors that they had heard. One after another, the more they talked, the more mysterious and powerful this Palace of Darkness seemed. Immediately, a few cultivators directly knelt down towards Yin Junfei's direction. Miss Messenger, I wish to join Palace of Darkness. These people's discussions, plus those few cultivators who knelt down and pleaded, This made Yin Fei's smile become even more arrogant. She looked at Yi Qing Luo provocatively and gave a cold harumph. Yi Luo, I am a messenger from Palace of Darkness, an esteemed messenger from the upper realm. Do you think you can kill me? Her tone was filled with complacency. But Yin Fei's complacency and arrogance. Yi Qing Luo totally didn't put in her eyes. The current Yi Qing Luo's expression was slightly gloomy as she stared at the name on the invitation letter. In her mind, she swiftly rearranged the surrounding powerhouse's conversation. She roughly knew what kind of place this Palace of Darkness was, according to her understanding. In order to maintain the balance of each plane, Upper Realms powerhouses were absolutely not allowed to appear in Nirvana Realms plane. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the existence of the balanced historian. So, this Palace of Darkness absolutely couldn't be a powerhouse from the Upper Realm. But where did those rumors regarding Palace of Darkness come from? Wait, Yi Qing Luo's mind cleared up as she thought of something. Yin Fei. Back then, she had escaped with the wolf holy technique and the remaining pharaohs and holy techniques of the dark forces, although the historian of balance had also interfered in this matter. However, after all, she did not see the balance historian take the people from the dark forces away with her own eyes. On top of that, one of the forces had mentioned it earlier. Joining the gloomy palace would allow one's cultivation speed to skyrocket in a short period of time. It was very similar to the arcane Yin-Chi of the dark forces. This gloom palace, could it be related to the dark forces? This thought made Yi Qing Luo's heart thumped. He had to ask Peach to investigate what kind of place the Palace of Darkness was. At this moment, Yi Qing Luo had no mood to continue tangling with Yin Fei. She turned around and was about to enter the carriage to leave. Just as she turned around, Sun Yutong blocked her way. After hearing Big Sister Yan's identity, you were so scared that you wanted to escape? Let me tell you, if you can't appease Sister Yin today, don't even think about leaving this place. Yi Qing Luo. Did she look like she was frightened? Chapter 2714. A Messenger from the Upper Realm? Miss Yin, as a fake who knows Yi Qing Luo very well, do you think that I don't know who you are? She chuckled softly, and there was a hint of laziness in her tone. Yi Qing Luo's words had just landed. Yin Fei's body froze. Her eyes slowly shifted onto Yi Qing Luo's face. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled up frivolously. Her tone was indifferent. If you don't wish to blow up this matter now, move aside. It was clearly just a cold and indifferent voice. But for no reason at all, it made one feel pressured. Under this pressure, Yin Fei's face paled. The smile on his face could no longer be maintained. If one were to take a closer look, perhaps one would be able to see that her body was trembling slightly. Why did this woman know her identity? She had obviously concealed everything so well. In everyone's eyes, she was a distinguished envoy from the upper realm. She was the emissary of the Abyss Palace. From the beginning to the end, they were people from the upper realm. No, she could not let this woman expose her identity. She could not be treated as a lowly person from the lower realm. This secret must be hidden forever. The more Yin Fei thought, the more flustered she became. Yi Luo. Yin Fei's voice suddenly lowered. She fixed her gaze on Yi Qing Luo's eyes, and that pair of beautiful eyes was suddenly tainted with a ball of black fog like ink. The moment Yi Qing Luo met that pair of eyes, her heart was beating strangely. In front of his eyes, there was a momentary daze. However, in the next instant, a scorching heat surged from his heart. Bit by bit, it burned her consciousness. Her eyelashes fluttered, and her spiritual consciousness became clear. This is Yin Fei wanted to control her? Yi Qing Luo asked herself, she who had experienced 2 lives. Her mental state was already solid and indestructible. Her spiritual power was also beyond ordinary people's. Generally speaking, she was not easy to control. What's more, Yin Fei's mental energy was too powerful. How could he control her? But just now, if it wasn't for the profound Heart Jade's reminder she might really lose her mind. Just as Yiqing Luo was preparing to retaliate, suddenly, a large palm covered her eyes. A gush of warm, profound energy entered her eyes at a speed that was neither too fast nor too slow. In an instant, all the controlling power that Yin Zhenfei had injected into her body was swept away. Yiqing Luo was stunned. A familiar plum fragrance wafted into his nose. She frowned. She didn't need to open her eyes to know who it was. Zhu Wuxin, don't look at her. A cold and indifferent voice floated down from above. The man moved closer to her. The scent of the plum blossom became clearer and entered her nose. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she raised her hand to push Zhu Wuxian's arm away. Zhu Wuxin's ice-cold voice rang in his ears again. You can't resist her eyes. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth, but the words she wanted to say didn't come out. He was interrupted by Yin Zhenfei's sharp voice. Castle Master of Death God Castle, why are you stopping me? She's mine. Zhu Wuxian calmly opened his mouth as his eyes were calm. Whoever touches her dies. Yin Zhenfei was so shocked that she retreated a few steps. Her hands were clenched tightly in unwillingness. Castle Master of Death God Castle, don't forget that I'm the one you should help. Whoever touches her dies. Zhu Wuxian's tone was calm as his icy cold face repeated these few words without any warmth. 5 simple words. Chapter 27:15. Yin Zhenfei didn't seem to use her brain as she stared at Yiqing Luo hysterically. You say she's your person. Then do you know that this woman, she's the woman who was abandoned by the Overlord? Zhu Wuxian's calm face started to fluctuate slightly. His dark and gloomy eyes stared coldly at Yin Zhenfei. This was the first time Yin Zhenfei saw a different kind of emotion from Zhu Wuxian. This was the proof. What she said earlier had indeed poked Zhu Wuxian's sore spot. Yin Zhenfei's heart was filled with fear, but thinking of her status in the secluded palace, especially. She didn't wish for Zhu Wuxian to have any feelings for that ordinary-looking young lady. She mustered up her courage as she screamed out, Castle Lord, don't be cheated by this woman. She used all sorts of methods to seduce the Overlord, and now that the Overlord is tired of playing with her, she's thinking of using you. Castle Lord, she's a B*TCH who can sleep with anyone. Yin Zhenfei had yet to finish her curses. Right in front of her, a gust of icy cold wind blade directly smashed onto her face. Yin Zhenfei cried out miserably. She was thrown onto the ground by that gust of wind. Her beautiful face was lacerated by the hurricane, and thick blood oozed out of her wounds. Yin Zhenfei was so shocked that she covered her face as she raised her head in terror. Castle Lord, you hurt my face. Your mouth is very dirty. Zhu Wuxian said coldly as his emotionless expression revealed a bone-piercing chill. Yin Zhenfei instinctively covered her mouth. She shrank backwards as she looked at Zhu Wuxian while shivering. Why? Why did all the men with distinguished statuses all stand on that slut Yi Luo's side? Obviously her looks, as compared to Yi Luo, were much more beautiful. Her status and strength were obviously much greater than Yi Luo's. But beside Yi Luo, there was the Overlord in front and Death God Castle's Castle Lord behind to protect him. She couldn't accept it. She couldn't accept it. Yin Zhenfei's fingers, which were covering her face, started to curl up slightly. Tears rolled down from the corners of her eyes. Her eyelashes were wet, and she put on a pitiful look. Lord Castle Lord, I just don't want you to be deceived. She is a woman abandoned by His Majesty, an abandoned woman. Everyone in the Northern Waves continent knows that. As she spoke, she tugged hard on Sun Yutong's sleeve. Sun Yutong looked at Zhu Wuxian in a daze. It wasn't until Yin Zhenfei pulled that Sun Yutong came back to her senses. She looked dazedly at Zhu Wuxian's face and nodded. Yes, she's an abandoned wife. This is even better. Zhu Wuxian's cold voice was extremely quiet. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but she seemed to hear a hint of joy in his voice. Zhu Wuxian, pleasure? No matter how he thought about it, he felt that words related to emotions had nothing to do with Zhu Wuxian. As soon as Zhu Wuxian's voice fell, his long arms suddenly pulled the girl in front of him into his embrace. His large palm was still pressed against the girl's eyes, not allowing her to open her eyes. Dmo, Xin doesn't want her. Then she belongs to me alone. Zhu Wuxian lowered his head, and his cold, thin lips pressed on the girl's head. Yin Junfei and Sun Yutong covered their mouths and cried out in shock. Was the Lord Castle Lord crazy? An abandoned wife that the overlord didn't want actually treated her like a treasure? That damn Yi Luo. Chapter 27:16. Cough, cough. Yi Qing Luo, who had been isolated outside the battlefield, gave a few dry coughs. She raised her hand and through her sleeves. She placed it on Zhu Wuxian's wrist, which was covering her eyes. Zhu Wuxian, you're chatting so happily. Can you move your hand away? Zhu Wuxian's arms stiffened slightly. After some time, he moved his hand away. Yi Qing Luo's eyes regained its brightness. She squinted her eyes as she looked at Zhu Wuxian differently. Please move this hand away. She pointed to the hand on her shoulder. Zhu Wuxian looked at her deeply. His gaze was deep, as though he wanted to carve her looks into his heart. It was until Yi Qing Luo's heart started to feel goosebumps when he slowly released his hand. Yi Qing Luo speedily shifted a few steps to the side, distancing herself from Zhu Wuxian's boundary. What a joke. Her dear Xian was still waiting for her in the carriage. If her dear Xian saw that she was touched by another man, his emotions might fluctuate again. The vinegar jar would be thrown around. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips as her tone was distant. Master Zhu, don't say such things which will cause others to misunderstand. You and I are not familiar. Zhu Wuxian's gaze suddenly turned chilly. That cold face also turned slightly pale. Yi Luo, don't be ungrateful. Yin Junfei couldn't take it anymore. Castle Lord is willing to speak up for you. Why are you still pretending? Yin Junfei was about to go crazy from anger. To be more precise, she was about to go crazy from jealousy. She was jealous of Yi Luo's good luck. Jealous of Yi Luo, who was able to obtain the Overlord's love, and now Zhu Wuxian's special treatment. Secluded Palace and Death God Castle had a collaboration. Yin Junfei was the clearest. Zhu Wuxian, this person, like his name, had no heart. There was no one who could make him take a second look, except for Yi Qing Luo. Unfortunately, Yi Qing Luo didn't know about it. She actually used such an attitude to treat Castle Lord. Was she intentionally relying on Castle Lord's special treatment to be pampered and arrogant? Hearing Yin Junfei's voice, Yi Qing Luo wasn't interested in her words. She frowned slightly as she sized Yin Junfei up carefully. Yin Junfei had some kind of mysterious power. Through her eyes, she was able to influence the minds of others and control them. Was this mysterious force related to the Palace of Gloomy Shadows? Was it related to the Dark Forces? If that was the case, it seemed that the Dark Forces were not going to give up. Do you still want to make a comeback by using the reputation of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness? She had to ask Jun Qingwu about this matter as soon as possible. Let Jun Qingwu investigate, like this, with the Dark Forces as the background, using the Upper Realm as a gimmick, built the so-called Palace of Darkness, and accepted countless talented disciples of the Mystic Grade. Does this count as a violation of the Plains Treaty of Equilibrium? Most importantly, if this matter was really as she had guessed, the venom in Dmo Xin's body must be removed as soon as possible. After all, it was obvious that the Palace of Gloomy Darkness wanted to surpass the Arch Palace. Before this, because of Feng Ling and the granny of the Imperial Palace's situation had changed. It was no longer as glorious as it was when it was at its peak. Now there was the Abyss Palace. As the Emperor of the Imperial Palace, Dmo Xin had to lead the Imperial Palace's disciples to suppress the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. What are you looking at? Yin Junfei felt as though she was being scrutinized by Yi Qing Luo's gaze, as though she wasn't wearing any clothes. But because Zhu Wuxian was by the side. Chapter 27:17. Yiqing Luo directly retracted her gaze as she turned around and boarded the little carriage, pulling the horse rope and sitting properly. This time, there was Zhu Wu Exin, the great Buddha, around. No one stopped her. Yiqing Luo directly pulled the carriage, passing by Yin Zhun Fei as she headed towards the small path in front. She left. Mei finally held her chest as she stood up, only to see Yiqing Luo's little carriage moving forward without even turning her head back. She hurriedly stumbled over to Yin Zhun Fei's side as she panted, "Fei-er, why did you let her go? If she left, would she let us off?" Before she could finish her words, Yin Zhun Fei's face had already turned black as she swatted Mei's hand away. "Not letting me off, or not letting you off? You know it clearly in your heart." Saying that, she gave a cold harumph and didn't look at Mei anymore. Yin Zhun Fei cupped her hands towards Zhu Wu Exion's direction. That face, which was lacerated by profound qi, was still bleeding. "Castle Lord, I'll make a move first." Zhu Wu Exion didn't even bother to take a look at her. Instead, he used a pair of icy cold eyes as he fixed his gaze on the direction which Yiqing Luo had left towards. Following that, he took a step forward and chased after her. Yin Zhun Fei, who was neglected, had an ugly expression on her face as she was extremely embarrassed. She clenched her teeth as she stomped her feet, flicking her sleeves as she quickly returned to her own carriage. On the other side, Mei was swung by Yin Zhun Fei, and her originally tottering body totally couldn't stand properly as she fell onto the ground. Her face turned slightly pale as her eyes stared in shock at Yin Zhun Fei's departing figure. Following that, her gaze shot towards the yes-man Sun Yutong, who was standing by the side. The moment Mei made eye contact with her, Sun Yutong seemed as though she was shocked as her entire body shuddered. She looked at Mei for a long time as her red lips moved. Just as she was about to say something, a lady's stern voice was heard from the carriage in front. "Sun Yutong, come over." Sun Yutong immediately shut her mouth as her brows drooped downwards as she obediently walked towards the carriage in front. Mei's expression was instantly filled with gloomy clouds. Yiqing Luo controlled the little carriage, and after it was far away from Yin Zhun Fei and the rest, she released the horse rope. With her small carriage, it would be difficult for her to catch up with Gui Wu and the others. Moreover, instead of chasing after that group of bad friends, she might as well spend time with her dear Ah Xian, get along with each other, and be affectionate. Yiqing Luo was preparing to return to the carriage to comfort her and kiss Ah Xian. His bowed body suddenly stiffened. Her ears twitched and her brows furrowed. She straightened her body and looked at the back of the carriage. As expected, he saw a figure that was burning like a raging fire rapidly approaching. Yiqing Luo stopped the carriage. That figure steadily stopped in front of her. It brought along a gust of cold wind. "Why are you following me?" Yiqing Luo's brows creased. Death God Castle's Castle Lord. As the collaborator of the Palace of Darkness, aren't you afraid of others laughing at you for running over to chase after me, an abandoned woman who has made enemies with the Palace of Darkness envoy? You don't like Gloomy Palace. His voice was very calm, and no emotions could be heard from it. Then I'll cancel my cooperation with them. Yiqing Luo, although she indeed didn't want to see Chu Wu Exian and the Palace of Darkness working together, but this had nothing to do with other superfluous feelings. Only, she didn't wish for the day that she would become enemies with this Chu Wu Exian who had saved her several times, and had an extremely deep obsession towards the original owner. But Chu Wu Exian's words, why did it sound like? Chapter 27:18. Zhu Wu Exian should continue to cooperate with the Nether Palace. He was bound to clash with her. Zhu Wu Exian wouldn't cooperate with the Nether Palace, right? Why did it feel as though Zhu Wu Exian didn't want the throne but the beauty? Zhu Wu Exian didn't care about what Yiqing Luo was thinking as his dark pupils stared coldly at her. His gaze was focused without blinking. Following that, he said something shocking. "Yiqing Luo, since you've already been abandoned by DMO Xian, then from now onwards, follow me." Yiqing Luo. What was Zhu Wu Exian thinking? That Yiqing Luo swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Don't joke around. It's not a joke. Zhu Wuxin suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed one of her arms as his eyes turned icy cold as his pupils turned black. He doesn't want you, I do. Zhu Wuxin's expression was unprecedentedly serious. His brows creased as his gaze turned deeper, as though it was a bottomless deep pond. Yiqing Luo took a step back as she tried to retract her hand. But Zhu Wuxin's strength was extremely strong. She couldn't struggle free at all. Yiqing Luo, you're mine. You promised me that you will become my wife. Zhu Wuxin pursed his lips as his expression was extremely serious and solemn. He said it word by word, very clearly, and with great emphasis on enunciating each word. He had guts, as though he was trying to memorize some lines. This was especially so since Zhu Wuxin was using such an expressionless face to say those words. Extremely inconsistent. Zhu Wuxin couldn't sense Yiqing Luo's inner world. He continued, spitting out each word. Between you and me, there's only one DMO Xian. Now that there's no DMO Xian, you should follow me in peace and become my bride. I can assure you that I will absolutely not abandon you. Yiqing Luo. She was struck by lightning once again. After Zhu Wuxin finished his words, that hand which was holding Yiqing Luo suddenly exerted force as he pulled Yiqing Luo's body into his arms. At the same time, Yiqing Luo felt an intense murderous intent assaulting her. Yiqing Luo quivered as she abruptly raised her hand and pushed Zhu Wuxin away. Wait. She quickly took a few steps back. After getting far away from Zhu Wuxin, she raised her head and raised her voice to express her loyalty. Young Master Zhu, let's not talk about whether or not Xian has abandoned me. Even if it's true, I will not follow you. Zhu Wuxin's eyes turned cold. Yiqing Luo coughed lightly and continued. Between us, even if there's no Xian, I will not become your bride. Because, no matter if we're together or married, it's all because of love. At this point, she paused and her tone became unprecedentedly serious. Zhu Wuxin, I don't love you. So, regardless of whether Xian is here or not, I will not be with you, much less marry you. A cool breeze blew. On both sides of the path, the dense leaves rustled. However, no matter how hard they tried, they could not disperse the strange atmosphere between the two of them. After a long time, until Yiqing Luo felt a little tired from standing, she then gave up the idea of waiting for Zhu Wuxin's reaction. She raised her brows and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. She asked indifferently, Zhu Wuxin, who taught you what you said just now? Zhu Wuxin's emotionless face froze slightly. His gaze also had an undetectable change at this instance. These words are not something you can say. Yiqing Luo indicated that every time Zhu Wuxin faced her, the most he would say were these few sentences. Chapter 27:19. Just like today, pulling her along in such a serious manner, various overbearing and provocative actions, as well as words. There was absolutely someone who was teaching him. Furthermore, Zhu Wuxin had said such a simple line awkwardly and stutteringly. No matter how one looked at it, it seemed as though he had memorized it. A faint blush appeared on Zhu Wuxin's cold face. His eyes, which were staring at Yiqing Luo, subconsciously looked towards other places. This further confirmed Yiqing Luo's guess. She couldn't help but laughed out. I say, Master Zhu, surely you aren't flirting with me, right? Zhu Wuxin's expression instantly turned gloomy. His jet-black pupils were surging with a chilly glint. His icy cold voice rang. What's so funny about this? If it was anyone else, it indeed wouldn't be funny. Yiqing Luo smiled as she looked at Zhu Wuxin. But it's you, the dignified castle lord of Death God Castle. You who can create an iceberg no matter where you go, actually know how to flirt. Her eyes curved into a smile. Who is the person who taught you? He actually taught you to use such a lousy method. Zhu Wuxin's jade-like face looked even colder. He was expressionless as he looked at Yi-Ching Luo silently, especially when he saw Yi-Ching Luo's smiling face. His gaze turned cold, as though a cold glint flashed past his eyes, revealing a cold and charming glint. All of a sudden, his figure moved. Two large palms pressed heavily on Yi-Ching Luo's shoulders. The man's plum fragrance assailed her nostrils. Yi-Ching Luo was just about to move. The strength on her shoulders pressed even tighter. She raised her hand, but at the next moment, it was held tightly by the man's large palm. Women's strength had always been inferior to men, especially for men like Zhu Wu Xian. Yi-Ching Luo couldn't struggle at all. Zhu Wu Xian's black pupils were sparkling with a clear and crystalline cold glint as his slightly pale lips curled into an inexplicable cold arc. Yi-Ching Luo was stunned by this Zhu Wu Xian. All along, Zhu Wu Xian's emotions were extremely indifferent, as though he had no emotions at all. This was the first time Yi-Ching Luo saw such a rich expression on Zhu Wu Xian's face, revealing a sliver of coldness. Is it funny? Zhu Wuxin's voice was extremely cold. It was as if a block of ice had sunk into her heart. His hands are wide and big. With one hand, he easily clasped both of her wrists and pressed them against a thick tree trunk behind her. Is my feelings for you so funny? He repeated the words again, his dark eyes filled with a frightening aura. Yes, I want you. I want to be with you and fulfill the promise we made when we were young. Did I do anything wrong? Zhu Wuxin's voice also became increasingly heavy. Like a large bell, it pounded on Yi-Ching Luo's heart. Zhu Wu Xian fixed his eyes on her face, and his voice became heavier. Because it's you, that's why I'll take great pains to please you. I want to see you because of my words to reveal the smile that you had when you were facing the emotion. Yi-Ching Luo's heart trembled violently. His heart skipped a beat. That was right. Zhu Wuxin was not wrong. It was just that he was too stubborn about the past. He was unable to let go of the warmth he had met for the first time in his life. That warmth had now been transferred to another soul. It had become another soul. This was not Zhu Wu Xian's fault. Like Zhu Wu Xian, he could be called as a heartless person. Chapter 27:20. She shouldn't laugh. She shouldn't feel that Zhu Wu Xian's action of flirting with her was especially silly. She could choose not to accept Zhu Wu Xian. She could reject Zhu Wu Xian. But she couldn't make fun of Zhu Wu Xian's changes in order to flirt with her. And she couldn't look down on Zhu Wu Xian's stubborn heart because of her. Her pink lips moved as she looked at Zhu Wu Xian. So sorry. I'm not. Before she could even finish her words of apology. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand and locked onto Yi-Ching Luo's waist. An extremely elegant plum fragrance kept gushing into her nose. Yi-Ching Luo's pupils gradually enlarged. Zhu Wu Xian's grave and stern face. What did he want to do? Was he going to forcefully kiss her? She realized Zhu Wu Xian's crazy actions. Yi-Ching Luo's pupils enlarged. Her hands, which were restrained, immediately started to struggle. The man pressed on her, not willing to let go of her. An overbearing and cold man's aura. This made Yi-Ching Luo's brows crease tightly. Her charming eyes turned slightly chilly as she moved her face away to avoid Zhu Wu Xian's kiss. Just as she was about to lift her leg to attack Zhu Wu Xian and escape, suddenly, a burst of dense, profound qi came pressing over. At the next instant, Yi-Ching Luo's body felt light. Her body broke away from Zhu Wu Xian's control. The elegant sandalwood fragrance instantly enveloped her petite body, expelling the other aura from her body. Between her breath, there was only that familiar and reassuring sandalwood fragrance. But faintly, there was a heartbeat. Yi-Ching Luo's heart instantly calmed down. At that instant, Yi-Ching Luo almost couldn't feel Zhu Wu Xian's existence at all. Her heart was filled with the man in front of her. Ah, Xian. DMO, Xian hugged her tightly. His long arms were extremely tight. That peerless face was filled with sullen anger. Especially when he looked at Yi-Ching Luo. The anger in his eyes was even more intense. But amidst the anger, there was also agitation and grievance. The emotion. After Zhu Wu Xian avoided that burst of profound chi attack, he frowned as he looked at the man who had disturbed him. His eyes darkened. "Why are you here?" DMO Xian's deep peach blossom eyes squinted, reflecting an extremely icy cold indifference. His thin lips were tightly pursed, filled with displeasure. "Lil Luo is mine. No one is allowed to touch her." As he was saying that, his arms hugged Yi Qing Luo tightly, declaring his sovereignty. Zhu Wuxin's frown deepened. He shifted his gaze onto Yi Qing Luo. "Didn't you say that he abandoned you?" Yi Qing Luo was just about to look at Zhu Wu Xian when DMO Xian suddenly hugged her and turned her around. Her line of sight was also blocked by his tall body. Was she not allowed to see Zhu Wuxin? Compared to the DMO Xian who would make a move at the slightest disagreement. Right now, no matter how angry he was, no matter how much he loathed Zhu Wuxin, he still did not attack Zhu Wu Xian. This childish action made Yi Qing Luo's brows tinged with a smile. She automatically hugged DMO Xian's waist as she patted his back in a soothing manner. Following that, in DMO Xian's arms, she calmly replied Zhu Wu Xian's words, "I've never said that I was abandoned. Just that. I'm too lazy to explain." Zhu Wu Xian's eyes flickered. Actually, he himself understood it very well. How could the DMO Xian who was poisoned by the love Gu possibly abandon Yi Qing Luo? However, in his heart, there was still some hope that he would get lucky. Or even hope. DMO Xian had really abandoned Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 27-21. But Yi Qing Luo's words completely shattered all his wishful thinking. Even without DMO Xian, Yi Qing Luo wouldn't be together with him. All the promises in the past had turned into nothingness. Or perhaps he was the only one who remembered the promise in the past. DMO Xian's body blocked her and Zhu Wu Xian's line of sight. Yi Qing Luo couldn't see Zhu Wu Xian's current emotions. She didn't know what this long silence meant. She pursed her lips as she deliberated over her words and continued. "Master Zhu, I'm very sorry. Previously, I made fun of your hard work for me, and I'm also very sorry to reject you. But matters of the heart shouldn't be dragged around. I won't give you any chance, any hope. This is my responsibility towards you, and also my own feelings." Zhu Wu Xian gave a low laugh. That laugh was a little desolate and self-deprecating. That laughter made Yi Qing Luo's heart feel a little uneasy. She was just about to move her body to check on Zhu Wu Xian's condition. But the moment she moved, she was wrapped even tighter by DMO Xian's arms. "I won't let you see him. I won't." His childish voice was filled with heartache. He must have been made to stay in the carriage earlier, witnessing the scene where she was almost forcefully kissed by Zhu Wu Xian. The current DMO Xian's enmity towards Zhu Wu Xian was extremely heavy. Yi Qing Luo listened to him and didn't move again. She cleared her throat and continued. "Master Zhu, this is all I have to say. I hope that the next time we meet, you and I are not enemies." Saying that, she patted DMO Xian's hand. "Ah Xian, let's return to the carriage." DMO Xian grabbed her hand. He even used his tall and sturdy body to block her completely. He just refused to let Zhu Wu Xian see any shadow of her. "If it's an enemy, won't you not show any mercy?" Suddenly, the silent Zhu Wu Xian opened his mouth at the instant when Yi Qing Luo turned around. His voice was slightly hoarse, and it was filled with obvious desolation, as though he knew the outcome but still stubbornly wanted to know an answer that made his heart ache. Yi Qing Luo's footsteps paused slightly. After some time, she slowly opened her mouth, yes. Indeed, this answer would make Zhu Wu Xian's heart ache. He laughed in a low voice and closed his eyes in a self-mocking manner, facing Yi Qing Luo, even though he knew it was pain on top of pain. However, he would only stop when his heart went numb from the pain. He almost couldn't understand himself. Yi Qing Luo, regardless of when she was young, she was still her current self, could easily. He was unable to control his emotions. Zhu Wuxin turned around, unwilling to look at the two people who were leaning against each other. His footsteps were light as he walked in the opposite direction. His feet stepped on the piled-up leaves. Rustling sounds could be heard. It was like the blood in his heart. Drop by drop, it dripped down. The pain was indescribable. It seemed like the mystical palace was right. Towards Yiqing Luo, he was ultimately unable to be as cold as what he said. He had plenty of ways to go against Dmo Xian, then forcefully snatched Yiqing Luo from Dmo Xian's arms. He had his ways. He would rather die in glory than live in disgrace. What he couldn't have was the girl who had betrayed their promise. He could totally destroy it. But he couldn't do it. He knew, the minute he did this, that young lady would hate him. That young lady's face would no longer show a smile that could move his heart. That young lady would no longer treat him with respect. That young lady. Chapter 27-22. Zhu Wuxian. Suddenly, the young lady behind him called out to him. It was almost a reflex action as he speedily turned his head back. But what he saw was still Dmo Xian's back view. The young lady's body was still completely covered by Dmo Xian. Even he himself didn't notice it. His brows drooped down as his gaze turned colder. 1 month ago, with the help of those few powerhouses in Joy Sect, we got the news that a Xian might have been affected by the parasite poison. Is it related to you? Yiqing Luo's voice was very soft, and her tone was very slow. She had no intention to question him. Zhu Wuxian's body stiffened as he frowned slightly. You think it's me? I want to hear your answer. Yiqing Luo replied softly. Zhu Wuxian froze for a moment until his thin lips felt dry before he moved, as though he was ridiculing her. If I say it's not, will you believe me? I believe you. Almost without any hesitation, the young lady replied firmly. If you say it's not you, then it's definitely not you. The young lady's words were like something as it struck Zhu Wuxian's heart fiercely. His tall and sturdy body shook violently. His usually icy cold eyes also uncontrollably widened by a few degrees. She said, if you say it's not you, then it's definitely not you. His tone was so certain, that unhesitant determination. He couldn't control his trembling body. At this moment, he was actually rejoicing that Yiqing Luo was nestled in Dmo Xian's arms and couldn't see his current predicament. He shut his eyes forcefully, trying his best to maintain the calmness in his voice as he slowly spat out 2 words, no. Saying that, Zhu Wuxian seemed as though he was escaping. In a blink of an eye, he disappeared in front of the street. The wind was still blowing against the surrounding dense leaves. Yiqing Luo wasn't able to sense Zhu Wuxian's presence. She raised her hand and patted Dmo Xian's chest. All right, he's already gone. Xian can let go of me. Not letting go. Dmo Xian stubbornly tightened his arms as he carried her up the little carriage. Be good. We still have to chase up to Xiao, Yi, and the rest. Yiqing Luo hooked his neck as she kissed his lips. This move was usually an extremely useful move. But now, Dmo Xian did not fall for this trick. Although after being kissed, Dmo Xian revealed a smile, but he still hugged Yiqing Luo tightly, not willing to let go no matter what. Yiqing Luo had no choice but to carry such a big lump of dog-type pet and support the small carriage. By the time the carriage regained its usual speed, Yiqing Luo then loosened the reins and let the horse move on its own to search for its companion. She, on the other hand, dragged all the large pets back to the carriage. Xian is angry? Yiqing Luo adjusted her position in Dmo Xian's arms. She pressed Dmo Xian onto the carriage. She was facing Dmo Xian, straddling his lap. Her hands hooked onto Dmo Xian's neck. Her pair of charming eyes were filled with smiles. The young lady's delicate features were magnified in Dmo Xian's pupils. The fragrance of the young girl kept drilling into his nose. Dmo Xian's expression turned gentler. However, he still remembered his anger. Lil Luo is not obedient. Lil Luo was carried by someone else. Now, aren't we letting Xian disinfect? Yiqing Luo smiled as she leaned her body into Xian's arms. Now my body is filled with Xian's scent. Xian's eyes shone as his tall nose twitched, as though he was really smelling Yiqing Luo's scent. Chapter 27-23. Yiqing Luo's eyes curved even more. She circled her arms around Xian's neck as her voice was extremely low, intentionally revealing a slight hoarse tone. So, Xian is still angry with me? Xian's inky pupils were deep as he stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. That gaze seemed to be mixed with a blazing flame. Yiqing Luo's cheeks were slightly flushed. This man, no matter what he had become, when he wanted her, he wouldn't conceal his gaze at all. Ever since Xian was poisoned, she didn't dare to let Xian's emotions fluctuate too much. The most intimate action with Xian, it would probably just be kissing, hugging, and raising high. But Xian, who was poisoned by the love goo, his self-control wasn't that good. There would always be a few times of misfire. Yiqing Luo didn't dare to use the previous reward method to soothe Xian. At this moment, Xian's eyes were filled with emotions. It was extremely obvious. She coughed lightly as her arms, which were circling around Xian's neck, slowly slid down. Xian, we are reaching the Miao Gu family soon. Only, her hand had just slid to Xian's shoulder. One of her hands was held tightly by the man's big palm. Following that, her body suddenly fell forward. She crashed heavily into the man's broad embrace. Following that, the man's strong aura pressed down on her in an overwhelming manner. His lips fiercely captured hers. His aura was wild and overbearing. So overbearing that she didn't have any extra rationality to consider other things. This kiss lasted for a very long time. So long that Yiqing Luo felt that she was about to suffocate. Outside, a white horse's neigh was heard. Xian then let go of Yiqing Luo. His arms were still tightly wrapped around her. That strength seemed as though it wanted to merge into her body. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel that something was pressing against her. Her entire body felt weak as she laid in Xian's arms. Her face flushed red as she panted heavily. Outside the carriage, a few familiar voices were heard. You're already at the Miao Gu family. Why aren't you out yet? The young couple is sitting alone in a horse carriage. What do you think it's for? Yin Xiao Yi's teasing voice could be heard. Apparently, she was taking revenge on Yiqing Luo for teasing her on Qiao Jin. Yiqing Luo raised her blushing face as she stared resentfully at Xian. You see, I've already told you that we're about to reach the Miao tribe, and you're still acting in this manner. Aren't you making a joke out of yourself? She glared at him. Not only did it not make the man show the same aggrieved expression as before. Instead, his eyes darkened, and he tightened his grip. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel. The feeling of something pressing against her became even more obvious. What the hell? Had Xian really gone crazy? Yiqing Luo's face turned even redder. She pursed her lips and pretended to be displeased. Stop messing around. Xian's body suddenly sunk as half of his chest pressed against Yiqing Luo's body. His hoarse voice carried a hint of grievance. I was so obedient, sitting in the carriage. This is the reward you should give me. You can't be angry. Yiqing Luo, this honey trap. It was totally against the rules. Yiqing Luo's blood tank was about to be emptied, but Xian was indeed very obedient earlier. He endured until Zhu Wu Xin wanted to forcefully kiss her before he appeared. She intentionally put on a straight face as it slowly softened. Chapter 27-24. Xian was insatiable as he tightened his arms further. Then, I'll let you off now, but after this matter is over, I want the same reward as before. Yiqing Luo, even though he was poisoned by love goo, he did not forget his black-bellied nature. What kind of reward was that? Had it taken root in his brain? Why was he always thinking about this? The laughter outside the carriage became more and more unbridled. Yin Xiao Yi used that kind of teasing tone as she knocked on the carriage's window. I say, Qing Luo, there must be a limit to being intimate. There's still quite a number of powerhouses preparing to enter the Miao tribe, and if you continue to block here, you will be surrounded by people. Yi Qing Luo pushed Dmo Xian's chest resentfully. All right, stop fooling around. Let's go down. Dmo Xian refused to let go and continued to rub her into his arms. His tone was one of shamelessness and stubbornness. If Lil Luo doesn't agree, I won't let go. I won't let them go. Saying that, his jet black, tranquil peach blossom eyes carefully scrutinized Yi Qing Luo's expression. As if he was afraid that she would be angry, he quickly added, It's Xiao Luo who is not obedient. You want me to wait for you obediently, yet you let others carry you. Little Luo is mine. Who said that he was poisoned by the love goo and couldn't think? This bastard's black-bellied and cunning was simply ingrained in his bones. Yi Qing Luo heard the laughter outside and knew that Yin Xiao Yi's words were right. There were also quite a number of influential figures that entered the Miao tribe one after another. Their carriage was small, but it was also blocking the way. After all, it was a bad influence. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes and stared at Dmo Xian as she helplessly agreed. It couldn't be helped. She could only choose to spoil her man. But if you want the reward, Xian has to promise me something. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows. Dmo Xian had already let go of her delicate body when he got the answer he wanted. The next moment, he was pressed against the side of the carriage by Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo raised one knee and knelt down in between Dmo Xian's two crescent moons. He reached into the profound phoenix ring and took out a half mask with golden edges. She took the mask and gestured at Dmo Xian's face for a while. A satisfied smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This mask was made for Dmo Xian during this period of time, according to the shape of his face. Her refining skills were only at the entry level. Fortunately, she had specially refined the mask with a third-grade holy fire. Although the mask did not have any additional special effects, it was still extremely exquisite in terms of aesthetics, especially when she put the mask on Dmo Xian's face. The effects were simply too shocking. The gold-rimmed mask accentuated Dmo Xian's well-defined facial lines. Her peach blossom eyes seemed to contain all the light in the world, and they were extremely resplendent. The mask only covered the upper half of Dmo Xian's face. It revealed the elegant curve of his chin and his thin lips. It was both mysterious and noble. He was as handsome as a deity that had descended to the world. Yi Qing Luo had been looking at Dmo Xian's face for such a long period of time, every day. At this moment, he could not help but lose his soul. Until outside the carriage, Yin Xiao Yi's slightly anxious voice was heard. Qing Luo, if the both of you don't come out, I'm going in. Yi Qing Luo then retracted her gaze absent-mindedly. Dmo Xian's slender fingers caressed the mask on his face. His eyes were tainted with a smile. Lil Luo likes the look of me wearing a mask? Yi Qing Luo expressed that this action was simply too tempting and she almost couldn't control herself. Chapter 27-25. Dmo Xian's situation was slightly special. If it wasn't necessary, Yi Qing Luo didn't wish for anyone to recognize Dmo Xian. Because of this, Yi Qing Luo specially kept away the purple robe which Dmo Xian usually wore. Instead, she changed him into a simple silver-colored robe. His usually untidy black hair was also neatly tied into a crown by Yi Qing Luo. Coupled with the half-face mask, it was impossible. His entire temperament gave off an extremely dignified and cold, yet noble and elegant feeling. As for Yi Qing Luo, she was dressed in a long red robe. Her long black hair was tied up simply with a cherry blossom hairpin. Her face was lightly and elegantly made up, which accentuated that delicate and pretty face of hers, with a few hints of tenderness. Especially when she was standing beside Immerse. But her aura didn't drop one bit. The appearance of the two made the bustling Miao tribe entrance fall into a dead silence. Everyone was stunned by these two, who seemed as though they had descended from the sky. Even Yin Xiao Yi, who wanted to tease them, had her mouth opened wide in shock, as all the teasing words were stuck in her throat, unable to be spat out. Yi Qing Luo just dragged her stunning kissing Xian as she walked to the middle of Yin Xiao Yi and the others. Those people seemed as though they had just awoken from a dream. Even the usually silent Gay Wu stared at DMO Xian as he said calmly, "Indeed, an evildoer." Yin Xiao Yi pointed at DMO Xian as she coughed violently. You made a mask for the Overlord? This half-exposed. Isn't it just too tempting?" Her words had just ended, but she was violently pulled over by a strong force. Xiao Jin's face turned slightly black as he held Yin Xiao Yi's petite body, as his voice was suppressed to a very low tone, with a warning tone, "Are you fine to me, ugly?" This voice was obviously a laugh, but when Yin Xiao Yi heard it, she felt a chill down her spine. Her lips trembled as she laughed dryly. How could that be? Jin is the most handsome in my heart. In that case, you still think I'm ugly? Xiao Jin laughed sinisterly. Yin Xiao Yi had yet to open her mouth. DMO Xian had already wrapped his arm around Yi Qing Luo's slender waist as he walked past her. He didn't forget to throw down a cold sentence. Not only do I think you're ugly, I also think your abs aren't good enough. Yin Xiao Yi. Damn it. Can't we turn the page on this abs joke? Was he taking revenge on her for teasing them outside the carriage? F***CK. This husband and wife were really not willing to suffer any losses. Can we still be brothers happily? Yin Xiao Yi was filled with grief and indignation, but she could not express it. The force on his waist indicated that Xiao Jin was truly unhappy. Rebuking Yi Qing Luo or coaxing his own slut Jin, which was more important? Of course, coaxing a man was more important. Yin Xiao Yi expressed that it was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Once she had coaxed Jin, she would come back for another round. Only then did the people in the surroundings regain their senses. After recognizing Yi Qing Luo's identity, all of their faces turned extremely ugly. A few well-dressed young ladies got off the carriage and whispered, "Isn't that Yi Luo, who was abandoned by His Majesty? Why is she here as well? I heard that the previous Miao clan leader and eldest young Miss Miao had offended her, so they were locked up by Qing West Sect sovereign. Then she still has the cheek to take part in the Miao tribe's sacred maiden selection? Isn't she afraid that the Miao clansmen would chase her out?" Chapter 27-26. The whispers of the ladies soon attracted the attention of the surrounding people. There was news about Di Zun abandoning an ordinary-looking woman. The North Continent and even the Nirvana realm had been in an uproar. But there were quite a number of people, such as those small forces who were not qualified to attend Qing West Sect's birthday celebration, had never seen Yi Qing Luo before. Now that they saw this legendary lady who had seduced the Overlord, they all came forward to take a look. A few of them started a gossip. This woman is really amazing. She was just abandoned by the Overlord, and now she hooked up with a new lover. Who is that gentleman? He looks extraordinary. He must have a distinguished identity. This vixen is so ugly and ordinary. How could she always seduce so many handsome and distinguished men? She's living well. Annoying. What are you talking about? The ladies pouted shyly for a while before continuing. But what you said is not without reason. That gentleman must have been cheated by that vixen. The crowd's attention shifted from Yi Qing Luo to the man beside her. They were all guessing who this man was. After all, he dared to want the Overlord's abandoned wife? One must know that men's possessiveness was very strong, even if it was the woman who was abandoned by himself. Similarly, he could not let other men dip their hands in. So either this man didn't know that Yi Luo had been with the Overlord, or he was confident enough to think that he could defeat Di Zun. Yi Qing Luo didn't put the crowd's discussion to heart. Just at this moment, the carriage that Yin Xiao Yi and the rest were in moved. A slender and tall figure walked down from the carriage. That was an extremely exquisite and beautiful lady, dressed in a dark blue long dress, her black hair scattered loosely at the back of her head. Her entire person emitted a kind of cold and elegant noble temperament. When the crowd's eyes met that lady's face, they were so shocked that they almost cried out. That's the lady we met at the restaurant that day? Yes, that's her. I remember it clearly. She is the Overlord's official wife? The real mistress of the palace? That day, I was in the restaurant. I saw with my own eyes that the Overlord left Yi Luo and walked to this woman. Furthermore, their relationship was extremely intimate. They were hugging and hugging each other. This woman is definitely the mistress of the Imperial Palace. What's going on? Why is the mistress of the Imperial Palace sitting in Yi Luo's carriage? Isn't that carriage master Gui Wu's? Maybe the mistress of the Imperial Palace knows Gui Wu, so she gave him face and reluctantly sat in the same carriage with Yi Luo and his gang of scoundrels. Everyone expressed their opinions, and opinions one after another. At this moment, a luxurious carriage came from the side. Wasn't the one who had just been beaten to the ground by Zhu Wu Mei? Her injuries seemed to have mostly recovered. However, his face was slightly pale, coupled with the flirtatious expression on her face that could not be concealed. She had a different kind of charm. Under the support of a maid, she walked down the carriage. Her pair of beautiful eyes seemed as though it was stained with poison as she stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo, giving a cold laugh. Don't forget that day at the Peach Blossom restaurant. Yi Luo was submissive towards this mistress of the Imperial Palace, totally with the attitude of a concubine, I think. Chapter 27:27. Mei's words made the surrounding people's gazes towards Yiqing Luo instantly changed. Declaring war with the Overlord? Was this a joke? But, thinking about it carefully, he felt that Mei's words made sense. They immediately distanced themselves from Yiqing Luo and the others, afraid that they might offend the Overlord. Seeing Mei's appearance, Yiqing Luo's gaze flickered slightly. Faintly, she felt that something was amiss. Earlier, this lady called Mei's injury was obviously very serious. But now, she was standing right in front of her. From the looks of it, she didn't seem to have suffered any internal injuries. Could it be that this lady called Mei had some miraculous medicine on her, which could quickly heal internal injuries? She has such a heavy enmity towards you. Peach took a look at Mei and raised her brows as she leaned towards Yiqing Luo and asked in a low voice, "You know her?" His rotten peach blossom. Yiqing Luo shot a glance at Mo Xian. Peach replied with an "oh" and nodded. She's a little strange. It's best to be careful. Her gaze swept across the surroundings as she suppressed her voice to the lowest. I asked Peach 3,000 to check on her information, but they could only find some superficial information. She is someone sent by the Sun family in East Continent. On the surface, she is accompanying Sun family's collateral relative Sun Yutong to take part in the Miao tribe Sena selection. But in actual fact, she is representing the Sun family, coming in North Continent, to help Sun family to make friends with various powerhouses. Sun family? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as East Continent's premier son's face surfaced in her mind. The Sun family you mentioned, is it the Sun family that I'm thinking of? Amen. Peach nodded. It's because Premier Sun exhausted his entire family's assets to bid for his Sky Recovery Serene Grass, causing his current position to be extremely unstable. That's why he came up with this method, to find a few backers to stabilize his premier position. Peach paused as her expression turned grave. There's one more point which is very strange. Other than her identity and news of entering the Sun family, before this, everything else about her is blank. Blank? Under Peach 3000's investigation, her background was blank. It was indeed very strange. So, I'm guessing that her background might have been purposely erased. Peach pursed her lips and continued. There is another possibility. That is, before and after she entered the Sun family, she changed her appearance and identity. Saying that, Peach deliberately pointed at Yiqing Luo's face. Since Yiqing Luo could disguise herself, of course, May could also disguise herself. It didn't matter which possibility Peach guessed. That was a potential danger. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she softly replied with an "N. I will be careful." She could feel it herself. This woman called May. He was very hostile to her. In this, it was absolutely not only because of DMO Xian. It was also very possible that it was because of other reasons. He chose to enter the Sun family and work for them. There is a high possibility that it was because the Sun family and her, Yiqing Luo, had formed an enmity with the world's mercenaries. If Lil Luo, who doesn't like her, just kill her. DMO Xian stood by the side, looking at Yiqing Luo's grave expression. His slender fingers caressed her face. Yiqing Luo was stunned. The indifferent lines softened. She smiled and held DMO Xian's hand. Not for the time being. If we don't find out who she is, even if we kill one May, there will be a second, a third May. DMO Xian's fingers slowly slid onto her tightly knitted brows, whispering, "I will protect Lil Luo." Chapter 27-28. Peach fed a mouthful of dog food again. She expressed her exhaustion as she silently turned around and left. Yiqing Luo and DMO Xian smiled at each other. The uneasiness in her heart was also soothed by DMO Xian. Her fingers pinched DMO Xian's big palm as she looked at the few people behind her. "Let's go in and see how Yi's preparation is going." Saying that, she took the lead and walked towards the entrance of the Meow tribe. Peach seemed to have thought of something as her expression changed slightly as she quickly caught up with Yiqing Luo's footsteps and was about to say something to her. May, who had been ignored, spoke in a shrill voice once again. "Miss Yi, have you been exposed and fled?" Yiqing Luo's footsteps paused as she glanced sideways at Plum's beautiful face. Her lips curled into a calm and languid smile. "Miss Plum is not old yet, and your eyes are not working well. Which one of your eyes saw me running away in panic?" Not sure if it was Yiqing Luo's words that agitated Plum. Plum's expression suddenly twisted. "You slut. Just a vixen who seduces men everywhere. I'd like to see, when this backer of yours sees through your true colors, will he still allow you to rely on him?" Yiqing Luo snorted lightly. It said that a person's heart is dirty. Everything is dirty. So in Miss Plum's eyes, women can only rely on men and not on themselves? She paused as her smile was filled with ridicule. To Miss Plum, as long as you can get a position, even if it's Premier's son who is old enough to be your grandfather, you can do it. Indeed, everyone is dirty. You. Plum's face suddenly turned steely green as though it was covered with dark clouds. She raised her hand and pointed at Yiqing Luo's direction as her whole body trembled. "What nonsense are you talking about? Your heart is the dirty one. You dare to say that you're not relying on the Overlord to show off? Didn't you immediately find another home after being abandoned by the Overlord? Didn't you want to declare war with the Overlord?" That looked as though she had been poked in her sore spot and flew into a rage out of humiliation. Yiqing Luo lazily moved her pink lips as she spat out word by word. "No, it's not." May's face was ferocious, the veins on her hands bulging under her sleeves. The poisonous chill in his eyes seemed to want to devour Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she sneered and shot a glance at May, immediately dragging DMO Xian as they walked into the Meow Stockade village. The disdainful ridicule was obvious. May was so angry that her whole body was trembling. The hatred and coldness in his eyes made people shudder. How would she take this lying down? She was an abandoned woman who had been abandoned by the Overlord. Why did he have to be so arrogant in front of her? Clearly, they were just women who had sacrificed themselves for the sake of status. Why did he have to pretend to be virtuous? She hissed in a hoarse voice, "You Luo, you," before he could finish his words. That young lady who had already entered the Meow village suddenly looked over. That pair of charming eyes seemed to be stained with a myriad of frost. Ling Mei's throat felt as if it was gripped by an invisible, ice-cold hand. It sealed all her voice. The young lady suddenly curled her lips. Her smile was extremely beautiful, but revealed an eerie chill. "Miss May, don't embarrass yourself." May's heart tightened as her pale lips trembled. In the end, she still couldn't spit out a single word. Indeed, if she continued to pester, that would be asking for humiliation. Based on ability or eloquence, she was not Yi Luo's opponent. Chapter 27-29. After Yi Qing Luo and the rest walked far away, the crowd who remained at the entrance of the Miao tribe to spectate all set their gazes on May. There were some men's gazes which were completely naked, not concealing their yearning. Some of the powerhouses' representatives walked up, one hand touching their chin, their eyes sizing up May from top to bottom. He looked gentle and refined, and had a certain temperament. But the words they said were so vulgar that it made people nauseous. "Beauty, you're so beautiful. Why not follow me? It's better than old man Sunday beauty. Compared to old man sun, we are more satisfied with you. The few of us, you can choose as many as you want. If you follow us, I guarantee that you'll have a good life in the future. As compared to Sun family, it's not much different." One after another, vulgar words made May's originally steely green face turned even uglier. She was forced to retreat several steps by the few wretched men. All of you get lost." May leaned against her carriage as she speedily ran up the carriage. "Little beauty, don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." One of the men stretched out his hand as he grabbed May's arm. After touching the lady's tender skin, uncontrollably, he caressed May's arm. The laughter in his mouth became even more sinister. The man's action also made the other men interested. They all crowded around May. May's expression instantly changed as her eyes turned sinister. "All of you get lost. All of you get lost. Just based on you bunch of toads, and you want to lay a finger on me." Those few men laughed even more wantonly. The surrounding people, as usual, didn't care about it. Earlier, when they faced Yi Luo, berated him, ridiculed him, they were as cold as now. Those who came to participate in the Miao tribe's sacred maiden selection were mostly small and medium-sized powerhouses. Naturally, their quality was relatively not that high. Seeing that no one around stopped them, they became more and more excited. One by one, they stretched out their hands, not caring that they were in public, as they directly touched May's body. When a hand came into contact with his body, he felt a chill run down his spine. May raised her hand, and with a cracking sound, it broke. She took a few steps back, her face slightly pale. The man whose wrist was broken screamed in pain. The men were immediately enraged. "B*TCH, aren't you here to act coquettishly and seek a backer? Why are you still pretending to be a chaste saintess? You've already slept with an old man in his 50s, and you're still scared of sleeping with us? Are you looking down on me? I'm going to sleep with you today." A few slapping sounds could be heard. The men grabbed May's wrist and slapped her a few times. May, who had been beaten, was about to retaliate. However, before he could make a move, her eyes widened abruptly. A black mist quickly entered her eyes. He slowly retracted his counterattack. She gradually calmed down. A few men dragged Plum, who had been beaten silly, and walked towards the direction of another denser forest. The onlookers revealed a tacit smile. However, no one noticed anything unusual. For example, May, who had been struggling fiercely after breaking a man's wrist, why didn't she struggle anymore? For example, when she was being dragged by a few men into the dense forest, why did she calmly follow them? For example, May's long hair, which fell down after being caught, covered her face. Chapter 27-30. After passing the inspection of the Miao tribe guards, Yi Qing Luo and the rest followed the female attendant's lead and directly arrived at the Miao tribe's largest public square, which was also the place where the sacred maiden selection was held. At this time, the Miao tribe's plaza was set up with about 500 long tables and soft cushions. The long table was filled with Miao delicacies and pastries. because of the existence of the ghost martial artist. Yiqing Luo and the rest were still arranged to be seated at the first row of the long table. The group of people sat down in succession. Because it was the first row, many of the forces that had arrived long ago shifted their gazes over to them. They whispered to each other from time to time. He seemed to be guessing their identities. After Yiqing Luo sat down, she searched around for Miao Yi's shadow. However, after looking around, he did not see Miao Yi in the surroundings of the plaza. She took a look at Dmo Xian, who had been hugging her slender waist tightly, and whispered something into his ear. Dmo Xian's body stiffened slightly as he shook his head. The two eyes under the mask flickered, showing extreme displeasure. Yiqing Luo helplessly patted the back of his hand. Dmo Xian's eyes then revealed a smile. Then, both of them stood up and walked away from the long table. They lowered their voices and asked the waitress standing at the side, "Where is your Miao family's second miss?" Second miss? When the maid heard this form of address, she felt a little unfamiliar. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she tried to probe. That is, Miao Yi, she should be considered as. Your Miao family's eldest young miss, right? Miao Yi. The maid's expression changed slightly. Suddenly, she raised her head. In order to display a humble and courteous attitude, these Miao female attendants naturally could not look directly at the guests' faces. Because of this, the female attendant stared fixedly at Yiqing Luo's face for some time before her expression sunk, as she speedily retreated a few steps. "You are Yi Luo." The waitress's voice wasn't loud, but it was definitely not small. It also attracted the attention of many people. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. There was an inexplicable feeling of unease in his heart. "Descend." Peach stood up and patted Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Immediately after, her eyes darkened and she shouted coldly at the maid, "Scram!" The female attendant was so scared that her face turned pale as she couldn't help but take several glances at Yiqing Luo's direction. He almost rolled and crawled out of the square. This scene caused the surrounding guests to discuss incessantly. "What's going on?" Yiqing Luo looked at the Peach coldly. Peach sighed. "I just wanted to tell you that he had yet to finish his sentence." A person wearing the 3,000 peach blossom robe walked over quickly. The man leaned close to Peach's ear and whispered something. Peach's expression darkened. She whispered some orders, and the man immediately left. Peach's expression was grave. She pursed her lips and was about to hook onto Yiqing Luo's shoulder, deliberating over her words, thinking of how to open her mouth. Just as he raised his hand, she immediately withdrew her hand when a cold gaze landed on her. Peach coughed softly. "Well, it's not a big deal for E. For her, it's also a kind of growth. I think you shouldn't interfere with her holy maiden selection." She paused and added another sentence. "The informant I've arranged in the Miao tribe will take good care of E." The anxiety on Yiqing Luo's face froze. Her eyelashes fluttered and drooped down. Peach's words made her more or less guess something. But there was no denying that what Peach said was reasonable. Only by experiencing setbacks could one grow. This was Miao Yi's growth. Chapter 2731. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes. She had put the pressure of Xian's poison on Miao Yi alone. She shouldn't disturb Miao Yi's heart at this time. She should believe it. Miao Yi, who was able to resolutely choose to leave the Miao tribe with the Miao Gu King in the face of unequal treatment, had her own hot-bloodedness. "Say just now, what did your subordinates tell you?" Yiqing Luo put Miao Yi's matter aside for the time being. Peach looked around. The surrounding people, because of the interlude just now, had set their sights on them. It was too conspicuous to stand. Yiqing Luo pulled Dmo Xian back to their seats. Peach sat down next to her and spoke with a dignified expression. "Just now, when you were being troubled by the Sun family, I specially left a spy from Peach Blossom 3000 sect there. Yiqing Luo. Someone was finding trouble with her, and Peach just left a spy to watch the fun. What a good friend." Peach didn't have the mood to joke and continued. After you left, Plum was entangled by a few small forces. Speaking of which, it's a bit strange. Huh? Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Peach paused and lowered her voice to be extremely mysterious. When Plum was entangled, she resisted very fiercely, but after being slapped a few times by those people, she obediently followed those people and went to the small forest. Yin Xiao, he was also listening by the side. Small forest? Perhaps. Her previous resistance was deliberately done for others to see. In actual fact, she wanted to take the opportunity to climb up to those people's forces. If that's the case, I won't say it's strange. Peach shook her head. My spy told me that Plum walked out of the small forest alone. Moreover, she became younger and more beautiful. Her whole body exuded a very strong charm. Yin Xiao, he touched her chin. Maybe she was nourished and satisfied. Probably not. Peach pursed her lips tightly. Her brows slightly sunk and her voice deepened. Plum and those men entered the small forest for a very short time, less than half an incense's time. Generally speaking, those men. No matter what, it was impossible for May to walk out of the grove in the time it took for half an incense stick to burn. Yiqing Luo understood the deeper meaning in her words. She pondered for a moment and said, even if it's half an incense worth of time, Plum has really been nourished. Then it should be a few men accompanying Plum out. Most importantly, my spies also heard screams. Peach nodded. After Plum came out, my spy wanted to continue following her, but he was almost discovered by her. That is to say, after May came out of the little forest, not only did her appearance change, even her strength had increased. Yiqing Luo understood the meaning behind Peach's words. After a moment of silence, her fingertips gently tapped on the table. If that's really the case, then we can only find those men to find out what's going on. I'm afraid we won't be able to find it. Peach shook her head. After my spy was almost discovered by Plum, he chose to enter the grove to look for those men. But there was no trace of those men in the entire grove. Chapter 2732. Missing. These two words made Yiqing Luo's mind suddenly come up with a thought. But that thought was fleeting and she couldn't catch it in time. Yiqing Luo frowned. Looks like this May not only has a strange background, she should be hiding some secret. Yes, so I specially asked someone to investigate what happened after May entered the northern continent and discovered. Peach paused again and clenched her fists. Her voice was filled with anger. Do you still remember? These 1 month, those rumors about you being abandoned by the Overlord? She's the one who manipulated it? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes. Yes, all the public opinion is manipulated by her. Peach gritted her teeth. That day at the Peach Blossom restaurant, she was the one who leaked the news of your private room. She was also the one who brought Miss Sun and other women who were very jealous of you to stir up trouble in the restaurant. She kept leading the crowd to cut off the relationship between you and His Majesty. After Yiqing Luo heard Peach's words, she pondered for a while and asked, Have you heard of the Palace of Darkness? Of course I have heard of it. Recently it's been in an uproar, claiming to surpass the Imperial Palace and become the #1 palace in Nirvana Realm. I heard that it has attracted a large number of forces to seek shelter and cooperation. Peach frowned slightly. This May is indeed very close to the messenger from the Palace of Darkness. What you mean is, May is from the Palace of Darkness? Messenger? Hearing how Peach addressed Yanjun Fei, Yiqing Luo felt strange. You haven't seen the messenger from the Palace of Darkness? Yes, Peach replied, but this messenger is very arrogant and especially likes to be flattered. In order to maintain her mystery, she always wears a veil and will not show her real face. Yiqing Luo nodded thoughtfully. If May is from the Palace of Darkness, then I'm afraid this person from the Palace of Darkness has the intention to target you. Peach thought of something again. Oh yes, the day when May appeared in the northern continent was the day we left Qinyua's sect. It was that day when May appeared. The day they left Qinyua's sect? Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled that day on the street. What she sensed was a strong murderous intent. Could it be the murderous aura released by Plum? She appeared as a collateral relative of the Sun family, Sun Yutong's elder sister. After that, she went around to inquire about you. Moreover, she was very interested in your name. Name, Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes. His guess was right. She had crossed paths with Mei before, although she had changed her appearance. However, his way of doing things was still the same as before. Mei would pay attention to her. It must be because he suspected that she was Yiqing Luo. Later on, maybe because of your face, she believed that you are not Yiqing Luo. But she still has a deep hostility towards you. Peach probed. Qing Luo, have you thought of who this Mei is? No. Yiqing Luo shook her head as she had no clue at all. Her hand, which was knocking on the table, paused. But I know that she believes that I'm not Yiqing Luo, not because of my disguise technique, but because the envoy from Secluded Palace doesn't believe that I'm Yiqing Luo. You also know the emissary of the Palace of Darkness? Peach understood the deeper meaning of this sentence. Chapter 27:33. She paused for a moment and raised her eyes slightly as her gaze went past Peach and landed on Yin Xiao. Following that word by word, she spoke clearly. Yin Junfei. What? Yin Xiao. He stood up abruptly, and the long table in front of her shook because of her movement. Xiao Yi. Xiao Jin immediately pulled Yin Xiao Yi's arm and used one arm to hold her shoulders. Sit down first. Yin Xiao Yi sat back down on the soft cushion under Xiao Jin's strength. She pursed her lips as her eyes were filled with a cold intent. The envoy from Secluded Palace is Yin Junfei. Now she's called Yin Fei Fei. Yiqing Luo narrated the process of Sun Yutong and Mei stopping her in a concise manner. She thought I'm Yiqing Luo's fake, so Mei naturally thought so too. Which means Mei is indeed from Secluded Palace. Peach's tone turned solemn. If that's the case, why did Secluded Palace appear? For? Peach raised her eyes and looked at DMO Xian. Now that Secluded Palace is in the limelight and Overlord is unable to return to the palace to manage, there are already many people saying Overlord's #1 legend will probably have to give up his position. Secluded Palace was currently in an uproar, and it accurately grasped every cultivator's inner thoughts. Using various gimmicks of being able to advance quickly in a short period of time and would ascend to the upper realms in future, they roped in one force after another. In a short period of time, they were able to catch up to the Imperial Palace's reputation. Such an existence. There was indeed hope to force the Imperial Palace to retreat. Those powerhouses who were originally dissatisfied with the Imperial Palace and the Overlord were naturally happy to see this happen. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways and met DMO Xian's eyes as a glint of warmth flashed past her eyes. I will not let the Imperial Palace's legend be occupied by a small palace with unknown origins. She would not let Secluded Palace become the #1 palace in Nirvana Realm. She would not let Xian's Imperial Palace be defeated. This Secluded Palace sounds a little strange. Jun Qingwu, who had been silent, frowned slightly. No matter if it's Heaven Realm or God Realm, there's no way to obtain a permanent advancement in a short period of time. Generally speaking, there was indeed some kind of medicine or secret arts to be able to advance in a short period of time. But that was only for a short period of time. Moreover, his body would be greatly affected, like the Netherworld Palace, where they were able to quickly ascend to the mystic rank and maintain stability. Even Jun Qingwu had never seen it before. No, there is a way. She paused, looked at the crowd, and said, Qi Yavin. Everyone's eyes widened. Yiqing Luo propped her chin. Furthermore, it's different from the profound Yin Qi in the West Continent. It's another type, a higher-level profound Yin Qi. In the past, the dark forces had used the mysterious Yin Qi to awaken the greed in some people's hearts. Seizing this greed, his consciousness was controlled by the mysterious Yin Qi. Once the mystical Yin Qi entered the body, under the control of the mystical Yin Qi could quickly raise the mystic grade And while the mystical Yin-Chi was still in the body, it could maintain the stability of the mystic grade. However, the longer the mysterious Yin-Chi stayed in the body, the stronger it became. The mysterious Yin-Chi would completely devour them, turning them into the mysterious Yin-Chi's puppet. Mysterious Yin-Chi? The dark forces aren't, Peach said in shock. Chapter 2734. For Yin Junfei to be able to become an emissary of the Palace of Darkness, it means that the Palace of Darkness is definitely related to the dark forces. The cup in Yin Xiao Yi's hand was knocked onto the ground by her. Yin Xiao Yi's expression surged with some kind of emotion. Yi Qing Luo took a look at her and continued, "Of course, that bunch of people from the dark forces, what status do they have in the Palace of Seclusion? We have no idea." The only thing that could be concluded was, with the strength of Wolf Saint Art and the others, it was impossible for them to win. They definitely wouldn't be able to build a dark, secluded palace in such a short period of time and develop at such a godly speed that it was comparable to the Emperor Palace. Therefore, there were not only dark forces in the Dark Palace, there might be other hidden forces. If the Gloomy Palace is really related to the dark forces, then the existence of the Gloomy Palace will affect the balance of the Nirvana realm. Jun Qingwu looked at Yi Qing Luo. I heard that the balance historian had once interfered in this matter, but I'd not expected such a thing to happen. Looks like I'll have to make a trip over to the balance historian's side. This matter must be known to the people of the upper realm. If you have the channels, inform the people in charge as soon as possible to come down and check the situation. Yi Qing Luo nodded in agreement. The existence of the dark forces itself is an existence that affects the balance of Nirvana realm. Behind the Nether Palace is obviously a much stronger force than the dark forces. Hearing this, Jun Qingwu's expression became increasingly heavy. She was just about to say something when her gaze fell onto Mo Xian and revealed a sliver of hesitation. Yi Qing Luo understood and gave a smile towards Jun Qingwu. She raised her hand, which was intertwined with Mo Xian's fingers, and said softly, "You don't have to worry about Ah Xian. I will take good care of him. You know, the goo poison in his body and—" Jun Qingwu pursed her lips, and a trace of emotion appeared on her face. "I know." Yi Qing Luo glanced sideways, her eyes gentle. "No matter if Yi is the Sacred Maiden or not, I will think of a way to let the Sacred Maiden help Ah Xian cure the goo." She paused and smiled. "As for the rest, I will protect him." After Jun Qingwu returned from the upper realm, she specially looked for her in private. They talked about Mo Xian's matters. Mo Xian went to the upper realm. He was indeed going to do something very dangerous. Even though Jun Qingwu didn't say it out loud, she only mentioned it briefly. But Yi Qing Luo roughly understood that this matter was related to the Divine Phoenix profound heart jade in her body. And in the upper realm, Mo Xian had divided his own strength and created a doppelganger to guard beside Yi Qing Luo. As a result, he was almost seriously injured in the upper realm. After that, because his doppelganger was in the Miao tribe's forbidden land, in order to be intimate with her for a short while, he had expended too much energy. When that clone returned to Mo Xian's body, Mo Xian's injuries were getting more and more serious. Mo Xian was now in the lower realm of Nirvana realm. Even if he was injured, he wouldn't be at a disadvantage. However, the situation now was different. Mo Xian was poisoned by the love worm. Under the influence of the love worm, his thoughts revolved around Yi Qing Luo alone. In addition, there was the unknown factor of Gloomy Palace. No one was able to guess whether the Palace of Darkness was targeting Yi Qing Luo or the Imperial Palace, or perhaps targeting the entire Nirvana realm. But no matter which point he aimed at, to them, it was a potential danger. "This is too risky." Jun Qingwu frowned, still unable to be assured. If the Overlord was injured in the Nirvana realm. Chapter 2735. I know what you're worried about. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she patted Jun Qingwu's shoulder. "If I'm injured, Xian will be in more pain than me, so you can rest assured that I won't let anything happen to me, nor will I let anything happen to Xian." Junqing Wu still wanted to say something. Suddenly, a deep voice floated over from the side. "What are you dawdling about for? There are those few old men around this lass. Are you still afraid that something will happen to her?" It was Gui Wu. His extremely young face had a serious and calm expression on it, but it didn't look out of place at all. Junqing Wu was slightly stunned as her beautiful eyes looked towards Gui Wu's direction, as though she was hesitating about what Gui Wu said. Zhou Imo stretched out his hand and hooked it around Gui Wu's neck as he smiled. That's right, Ah Wu and I are here. What are you worried about?" Gui Wu frowned as his gaze turned slightly cold as he looked towards Zhou Imo. Zhou Imo was all smiles as he turned Gui Wu's head to the other side, before smiling at Junqing Wu. "Don't be fooled by Ah Wu's unwillingness to help. You can be at ease. As long as this young master stays here, he will definitely stay here as well. Go in peace." Gui Wu's face turned black as he remained silent. This was considered as a tacit agreement. Junqing Wu looked at Gui Wu for some time. Following that, she looked towards Yi Qing Luo. Then, "I'll trouble you to take care of the overlord. I'll rush back immediately." Saying that, Junqing Wu directly got up and left the Miao Stockade village. Zhou Mo was all smiles as he sent Junqing Wu off. His body moved as he pushed the peach aside and got closer to Yi Qing Luo. Between his brows, there was a smile. "Little Qing Luo." Zhou Mo called out these 3 words. Suddenly, he felt a gush of cold current. His body shook as his gaze followed the direction of the cold current. He met with Mo Xian's treacherous cold gaze. Zhou Mo's body, which was just about to reach Yi Qing Luo's ear, slowly moved backwards. "Ah Xian, don't scare him." Yi Qing Luo pinched Mo Xian's palm and glanced sideways at him. "What do you want to say?" Zhou Mo took a look at Mo Xian and then looked behind him. Under the headscarf, the 2 ears kept twitching, trying to eavesdrop. Using a voice that only the 2 of them could hear, he said, "Little Wildcat listens to you the most, and you know how I feel towards Little Wildcat. When you're free, put in a few good words for me in front of Little Wildcat. How about that?" Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. "Is young Master Mo begging me?" "No. Yours truly is making a deal with you." Zhou Mo shook his head solemnly. "I'll lend Au to you. You can use him however you want and for as long as you want. And you just need to put in a good word for me in front of the Little Wildcat. You're not losing out at all in this deal. It's so worth it." Yi Qing Luo tilted her head and shot a glance at Gui Wu before looking at Zhou Mo. This be asterisk starred, selling out his teammates. He couldn't be any more straightforward. But she didn't intend to let Zhou Mo abduct her little cat so easily. Although, she could tell that little cat didn't have no feelings towards Zhou Mo. But little cat's identity and Zhou Mo's identity, if they really wanted to be together, it might be a little difficult. After all, little cat was the beast race's princess, and she had signed a blood pact with her. Before the pact was rescinded, little cat had to stay by her side. If Zhou Mo wanted to be together with little cat, then he had to follow little cat and stay by her side. Zhou Mo was there. Gui Wu would definitely be there, with 2 more helpers. Chapter 2736. But how long could this last for? That would depend on Zhou Mo himself to think it through. Yi Qing Luo cleared her throat and raised a finger, replying in a serious manner. "How am I worth it? How am I not losing out? I'm losing out big, all right? And you're using my little cat as a transaction?" She purposely emphasized the last sentence. Zhou Mo's expression changed instantly, putting on a pitiful expression. Yes, I'm wrong. I shouldn't have said that. I'm begging you, all right." Yi Qing Luo smiled and nodded satisfactorily. "All right, Zhou Mo. Damn, how could such a cute little wild cat have such a shameless owner?" Zhou Mo's face turned black as he returned to his seat. Kitty Lee immediately swayed her ears and rushed over. Her bright eyes stared at him. "Why are you looking for sister? What did you whisper to sister? And you're purposely hiding it from Kitty Don't you want Kitty to hear it? The next few questions were all filled with unhappiness. Looking at the adorable face in front of him, Zomo's heart instantly felt the warmth of spring. He curved his red phoenix eyes and hooked his finger at Kitty Lee. Come closer, I'll tell you secretly. Kitty Lee immediately moved her little head over. A warm kiss landed on the side of her cheek, on the human ear that had materialized, accompanied by the young man's magnetic and seductive voice. Little wildcat, are you jealous? Kitty Lee's little body suddenly stiffened. Her cheeks flushed red with a whoosh. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about the lovers' little quarrels. She leaned on Mo Xian's body as her head rested on his arm, her fingers subconsciously playing with Mo Xian's fingers. Jun Qingwu's departure didn't attract too much attention. Basically, all the attention was still on Yiqing Luo and Mo Xian. Yiqing Luo felt that these people could gossip about her for 3 days and 3 nights, and they wouldn't even find it annoying. Vaguely, probably listening to what they were saying. Similar to the young lady who was abandoned by the overlord still dares to show her face in public. Another example was the abandoned woman who was abandoned by the overlord provoked another man. Another example was, in any case, it was all the same old words. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered. Those people probably saw Yiqing Luo's thick skin and didn't have the confidence to refute. He spoke even louder than before on purpose. There were also quite a number of young ladies who deliberately accompanied him, gathered near the first row and shouted at the top of their lungs, belittling Yiqing Luo in various ways in an attempt to attract Mo Xian's attention and thus dump her in public. Of course, there was a group of people sitting in the first row. From the beginning to the end, he was just talking and laughing to himself. He treated the group of people who were discussing as if they were air. This kind of atmosphere lasted until a loud, welcoming sound rang out. The emissary of the Palace of Darkness has arrived. The representative of the Sun family has arrived. The words gloomy Palace of Darkness instantly caused most of the factions to stand up and look over. At the entrance of the square, Yanjin Fei was escorted to her seat by everyone. The faces of the waitresses and waitresses were filled with flattering smiles. There were even 2 old men dressed in the Miao tribe's elders' attire. They cupped their hands and stepped forward. They had gained a lot of face for the gloomy palace. Currently, all the powerhouses wanted to collaborate with the gloomy palace and even sent their own heirs over to be disciples. Chapter 2737. With the gloomy palace's envoy taking the lead. Sun Yutong and Mei Hu walked in after that, appeared extremely cold and quiet beside the 2 of them. On the other side, on seeing Yanjun Fei walking in, Yin Xiaoyi's originally relaxed emotions suddenly congealed. Her eyes swiftly shot towards Yanjun Fei. Her eyes seemed to be filled with a raging storm. Xiao Jin's hand was placed on Yin Xiaoyi's shoulder. His broad and warm palm slowly soothed the agitation in Yin Xiaoyi's heart. Yiqing Luo laid lazily in Mo Xian's arms, changing into a more comfortable position as she squinted her eyes, looking at that veiled lady. The corners of her lips, bit by bit, curled into a cold arc looked like those who were seeking their own humiliation were about to form a team again. Just like what Yiqing Luo had guessed. Yanjin Fei was respectfully welcomed by 2 elders as she came to the first row of the public square's guest seating. The Miao tribe had divided the seating into 2 rows, left and right. The 2 rows on the left and right, each row could seat about 20 people. Yiqing Luo and the rest sat on the first row on the right. The elder led Yanjun Fei, Mei and the rest toward the first row on the left. But when Yanjun Fei was turning to the left, she suddenly stopped in her tracks. Madam Envoy, what's the matter? Second Elder Miao also stopped in his tracks, as he asked in a flattering manner. Yanjun Fei's gaze swept across, as she looked towards the seats on the right, in the direction of that row of 10 over people. Her gaze stopped on Yin Xiaoyi for several breaths, and went past her, stopping on Yiqing Luo. Yanjun Fei's eyes narrowed, as an icy cold glint shot out. Second Elder Meow was an intelligent person, as he followed Yin Junfei's gaze, as he understood something, as he smiled apologetically. I believe Madame Envoy has heard of those rumors regarding Miss Yi. Don't put her in your heart. The reason why she can sit there is only because her relationship with Master Gui Wu is better. Yin Junfei's gaze turned chillier by the minute. When Sun Yutong, who was beside him, saw this, she revealed a disdainful smile. She glanced at the seats on the right and said, I say, Second Elder Meow, the rules of your Meow tribe are really laughable. May also chimed in from his side. Viciousness faintly surfaced on her beautiful face. Any Tom, Dick, or Harry can rely on their connections to sit in the first row. Now, they even arranged our big sister Yin to sit next to them. Second Elder Meow feels that Big Sister Yan's status is equal to those pieces of trash. When he spat out the last 4 words, Plum released her aura without anyone noticing. Second Elder Meow broke out in a cold sweat. Fourth Elder Meow wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and spoke with some hesitation. The Great Messenger has a distinguished status. It is the Meow tribe's honor to be able to participate in the most important sacred maiden selection ceremony of the Meow tribe. How can those few students compare to you? Fourth Elder Meow first praised him before continuing, but Grandmaster Gui Wu, he is, after all, the most respected Grandmaster in the Nirvana realm. He is also a prophecy expert who can determine a profound practitioner's life. In this way, the Meow tribe feels that our big sister Yin can't be compared to that Grandmaster Gui Wu. You value the so-called Grandmaster Gui Wu more? May directly interrupted Fourth Elder Meow's words, as her voice was chilly. Fourth Elder Meow's face immediately turned pale, as he hurriedly cupped his hands in apology. No, no, no. I absolutely don't mean it in this way, but... Chapter 2738. Then, Second Elder Meow moved closer to Yin Junfei and smiled flatteringly. This brother of mine is stupid. Lord Envoy, please be magnanimous and don't bother with him. Pausing for a moment, he looked at the seats on the right and asked in a low voice, We are stupid. According to Sir Messenger, what should we do? Yin Junfei maintained her unfathomable posture and raised her head high. It was as if even speaking to the elders of the Meow tribe was beneath her status. Second Elder Meow's expression was slightly awkward. However, he still had to maintain the smile on his face. Sun Yutong received Yin Junfei's gaze and said arrogantly, No wonder your Meow tribe is still a small faction even after hundreds of years. Was there need to ask Sister Yin such a simple question? I'll be frank. These people, since they don't have the qualifications to sit on this seat, just chase them away. Second Elder Meow's face darkened. His white brows furrowed as he stared at the seats on the right for a moment. Yin Junfei's careless voice drifted into his ears. What? Does Second Elder Meow think that little sister son's request is too much? Second Elder Meow felt a chill run down his spine, and he immediately straightened his back. He hurriedly shook his head with a smile. It's not too much. Miss Sun is right. Those who don't have the qualifications indeed don't deserve to sit in the first row. This is against the rules. After saying that, he glanced at Fourth Elder Meow, warning him to speak less and act cautiously. Following that, he cupped his hands in greeting towards Yin Junfei and headed towards the first row, towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo and the others naturally noticed the extravagance on this side, seeing that Yin Junfei had not taken her seat for a long time. Many people looked at them from time to time. How could they not understand? Yin Junfei was putting on a show, wanting to cause trouble. As expected, not long after, they saw Second Elder Meow walking toward them with a gloomy expression. Second Elder Meow paused for a moment by Gui Wu's side. After that, he carefully sized up Gui Wu's expression. Gui Wu did not even raise his eyelids, and only held a cup of wine, minding his own business and drinking. His expressionless face made it impossible to tell what he was thinking. Second Elder Meow asked himself if he could climb to the position of Elder Meow. Naturally, he had his own way of judging people. However, when he looked at Gui Wu, not only could he not see anything, on the contrary, he was suppressed by the aura of the ghost martial artist to the point that he broke out in cold sweat and his legs went weak. Clearly, Gui Wu had not even taken a glance at him. Second Elder Meow decisively dispelled the idea of discussing with Gui Wu as he braced himself and walked towards Yi Qing Luo. You, and you. Second Elder Meow pointed towards the direction of Yi Qing Luo and the rest. In a row, other than Gui Wu and Zhou Mo, the rest were all pointed out. He waved his hand, and his white robe fluttered in the wind. All of you sit at the back. After saying those words, Second Elder Meow immediately looked towards Gui Wu. Gui Wu was still minding his own business, drinking wine. He secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Gui Wu did not care about the life and death of these people. From the looks of it, it should be this group of students who were shamelessly trying to intimidate Gui Wu. Master Gui Wu couldn't be bothered to bicker with them and couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them. Therefore, he didn't say anything to explain that he wasn't familiar with these students at all. That's right. It must be so. Otherwise, why would this group of people sit together with Gui Wu and the rest? Chapter 2739. Thinking in this way, Second Elder Meow wasn't worried that because he chased these students away, he would offend Ghost Martial Artist. He felt even more confident now. He put on a straight face. You bunch of students, do you know the rules or not? Is this a place where you can sit? He raised his head and looked at the seats at the back as he casually pointed to the last few rows. All of you sit over there. However, after he said that, the people on the seats only shot him a faint glance. Following that, they shifted their gazes away, continuing the conversation earlier. No one bothered about Second Elder Meow's words. This was simply a blatant slap on Second Elder Meow's face. Second Elder Meow's expression instantly sunk as he fiercely slammed his palm onto the table. This elder will not haggle with you on account of your young age and lack of upbringing. Now, scram over there for this elder, otherwise. Don't blame this elder for not showing any mercy. Second Elder Meow's slap was extremely forceful. On the long table in front of Yi Qing Luo and the others, those delicacies, bowls, and chopsticks, all gave off a clashing sound from the vibrations. This commotion, it also made the guests who had just entered their seats to look over curiously. The entire Meow Clan's public square was in silence. Everyone's gazes all gathered towards the direction of the first row. The people who were seated on the first row still hadn't moved, until Second Elder Meow's remaining power had dissipated. Yi Qing Luo and the others didn't even bother to take a look at Second Elder Meow. Second Elder Meow's eyes were hazy as anger surged up, and just as he was about to slam the table and scold angrily, suddenly he saw that red-robed young lady raising a fair, slender wrist, displaying a shut-up gesture. Inexplicably, Second Elder Meow's words were instantly stuck in his throat. The young lady was still leaning lazily in that half-masked man's arms, as her brows were filled with ridicule and ridicule. Upbringing? With Second Elder Meow's current quality, are you even fit to talk about upbringing with me? The young lady's voice was melodious, extremely pleasing to the ear, like pearls falling onto a plate into one's heart. Elder Meow widened her eyes, and her face turned ashen. What did you say? I didn't expect that Second Elder Meow is not only of low quality, even his ears are not that good. Yi Qing Luo lazily propped up her waist against Mo Xian's tall frame. His every move was filled with a lazy aura. Compared to family education, I feel that us students are much more noble than you. She smiled sweetly. At least, we will not do such a disrespectful action and say such disrespectful words at such a sacred moment to the Meow tribe. He was mocked by a junior in front of so many guests. If Second Elder Meow didn't act up in the future, he would probably be called a paper tiger. Second Elder Meow's entire body instantly emitted a terrifying aura as her pair of sinister eyes stared angrily at Yiqing Luo as she clenched her teeth. What a sharp-tongued lass. You also know that this is the Meow tribe. How dare you disregard the rules in this elder's territory? My Meow Stockade village will not tolerate you lot. Saying that, he howled furiously. Men, chase these people who are disrupting the Meow tribe's sacred maiden selection out of the Meow tribe. Very quickly, a large group of guards swarmed up. No one around them spoke up to plead for him. Everyone could see that. Second Elder Meow's actions were instigated by the secluded palace, who was willing to offend the secluded palace for this bunch of Heavenly Academy students. Chapter 2740. Naturally, everyone had the attitude of watching a good show. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes. Taking a look at the guards who surrounded her, her lips curled into a cold smile. This is how Second Elder Meow treats guests. This elder doesn't think that anyone who disrupts our Meow tribe's sacred maiden selection ceremony is a guest. You address yourself as a guest, but you don't have any manners. So why should this elder treat you with respect? Second Elder Meow gave a cold laugh as his brows turned cold. Do it. The guards received the order and pounced towards Yiqing Luo and the others. DMO Xian hugged Yiqing Luo's slender waist tightly as his figure retreated backwards. Like a ghost, he broke away from the guards' encirclement. Yiqing Luo's gaze went past the crowd and landed on the middle of the first row, on Yin Zhanfei, whose brows were raised with a smile in her eyes. As though sensing Yiqing Luo's gaze, Yin Zhanfei shifted her gaze. Coincidentally, it met Yiqing Luo's eyes. She was extremely complacent, as though she was ridiculing Yiqing Luo. Fight with me? Are you qualified? Yiqing Luo wasn't angry. Instead, her charming eyes curved as her pink lips moved slightly, spitting out two words soundlessly, scum, scum. Successfully, it made Yin Zhanfei's face turn black. Yiqing Luo's mood was joyous as she leisurely shifted her gaze away, looking towards Yin Xiao, Yi, and the others who were surrounded by the guards. Yiqing Luo pinched Mo Xin's hand. Originally, she didn't want to create trouble at Yi's sacred maiden ceremony. But trouble came knocking on her door. She could only take action. She was preparing to bring Mo Xian along to take action directly, using violence to curb violence. Suddenly, a clear and dignified voice shouted angrily, "Stop!" This angry shout, it was extremely dignified. It made those guards subconsciously stop what they were doing. Everyone's gazes turned over. They saw a lady dressed in blue Meow tribe clothing, walking over slowly. The Meow tribe accessories on her gave off a jingle sound as she walked. Second Elder Meow's gaze, when it met the lady, his expression turned extremely ugly. Meow Yi, what are you doing out here? The woman was Meow Yi. There was a cold smile in Meow Yi's eyes. Her clearly young face was strangely mature and stern. Second Elder Meow wants to chase away the guest that I invited. If I don't come, who knows what Second Elder Meow will do to my guest? She walked to Yin Xiao, Yi, and the rest. Her petite body stood in front of them. His gaze swept across the surrounding guards bit by bit. Go down. Her voice was calm, but it was filled with authority. The guards immediately looked at Second Elder Meow. These guards knew about Meow Yi's status in the Meow tribe. If it was before, the guard did not care about Meow Yi at all. But now, the Meow tribe leader and young Lady Meow had done such a shameful thing to the Meow tribe. In the entire Meow tribe, Meow Yi was the only direct descendant of the Meow tribe. Moreover, Meow Yi had participated in the Meow tribe's Holy Maiden selection and was one of the candidates. They naturally did not dare to be rude to Meow Yi. Otherwise, it would be disrespectful to the Holy Maiden and the ancient Goo Worm. But Second Elder Meow was the elder of the Meow tribe. He was below 1 and above 10,000. Both sides were people that their guards could not afford to offend. For a moment, the The guards did not know who they should listen to. Second Elder Meow was obviously aware of this point. Chapter 2741. Second Elder Meow's face darkened as he warned in a low voice, "Meow-ee, you are not a descendant recognized by the Meow family. You were allowed to participate in the Holy Maiden selection only because you have the direct bloodline of the Meow tribe leader. If you cannot pass the Holy Maiden selection, do you know the consequences? I am not a descendant recognized by the Meow family." Then, that Meow Rong Rong who had an illicit affair with her father, is she a descendant recognized by the Meow family? Meow-ee laughed coldly as she retorted rudely. Second Elder Meow's expression turned extremely ugly as he scolded her sternly. "Meow-ee, what nonsense are you spouting?" Second Elder Meow, you know very well whether I am spouting nonsense or not. Meow-ee smiled nonchalantly. Second Elder Meow did not expect this. This little girl, who usually looked so obedient and harmless, how could she become so sharp-tongued? Could it be that her usual obedience was just an illusion? That her usual obedience was just an illusion? And now, was this her true face? This thought sent chills down Second Elder Meow's spine. If it was really as he had guessed, then this Meow-ee was definitely not a good person. His white brows furrowed, as if something was strangling his heart. He was about to speak when Meow-ee continued with a smile. Second Elder Meow, allow me to remind you that from the day Meow-ee-xiong and Meow Rong Rong did that illicit affair and humiliated the Meow tribe, they were no longer part of the Meow tribe. And I, Meow-ee, am the true eldest miss of the Meow tribe. Every word was forceful and sonorous. It was as if she was swearing something. Second Elder Meow's face alternated between green and white. His ruthless eyes stared straight at Meow-ee, as if he wanted to see through this girl's soul. Meow-ee let him look at her. The corners of her mouth curled up into a smile. She was still so confident and in high spirits. Second Elder Meow, these are the guests that I invited. I want them to sit here. Do you have any objections? Second Elder Meow stepped back, his gaze darting towards Yanjun Fei. Meow-ee, eldest miss, this is not the time for you to be willful. He knew that what Meow-ee said was the truth. Meow-ee was indeed the direct bloodline of the Meow tribe leader. Even if Meow Rong Rong was still here, Meow-ee was the real young mistress of the Meow clan. He softened his tone and discussed. Eldest miss, over there is the emissary of the Palace of Darkness. You also know that the Palace of Darkness now represents the entire Nirvana realm. If we offend the emissary of the Palace of Darkness, the Meowgu family will be in trouble. Meow-ee scoffed at Second Elder Meow's explanation. Second Elder Meow patiently looked at Yi-Ching Luo. Miss Yi, your eldest young miss friend, so you should consider for her sake. It's just a messenger from the Palace of Darkness, yet Second Elder Meow is so humble. Those who don't know would think that your Meow tribe has fallen to the point where you have to curry favor with everyone you see. Yi-Ching Luo's fingers twirled a lock of hair as she gave a low laugh. She did not hide her disdain for Second Elder Meow at all. You, Second Elder Meow glared furiously. Don't you dare insult the Meowgu clan. Yi-Ching Luo raised her brows. As for the Second Elder Meow, she didn't know how to evaluate it. Chapter 2742. For the Meowgu family. He, the dignified Elder Meow, was willing to lower his head, but in order to curry favor with others, he treated the invited guests rudely. Yi-Ching Luo despised this kind of behavior. She leaned her little head on Mo Xian's arm and yawned lazily. She then continued, Second Elder Meow, if Miss Yin wishes to sit in our row, then let her come over to discuss it herself. Otherwise, there's no need for discussion. After saying that, she raised her hand and casually swept it. A surge of invisible, profound energy instantly dispersed. In the air, a wave of air rolled down like the waves of the sea. Those guards were standing there in a daze, opened up a path. Yi Qing Luo and the rest returned to their original seats. The delicacies, bowls, and chopsticks on the long table were all neatly returned to their original positions. This scene caused countless people in the surroundings to be dumbfounded, especially second Elder Miao, who was the nearest. At the moment when Yi Qing Luo made her move, her footsteps seemed to be floating as she retreated a few steps back. This power. It was too shocking. This was the infamous Yi Luo of the Northern Wave Continent. His power was actually so powerful. Earth Profound 9th grade. Gui Wu, who was sitting by the side, put down his wine cup. He raised his eyes expressionlessly, calmly, without any fluctuations. The moment she released her profound chi, her profound grade was Earth Profound 9th grade, about to step into Sky Profound realm. Earth Profound 9th grade. She. The Overlord's abandoned wife is an Earth Profound 9th grade cultivator, and very likely, possibly, about to step into Sky Profound realm. This sentence seemed to have stirred up 1,000 waves, caused countless people to refute in disbelief. Earth Profound 9th grade? How old was Yi Luo? He looked at most 14 or 15 years old. A 14 or 15-year-old Earth Profound 9th grade cultivator, and to step into Sky Profound realm. Even the Overlord couldn't do it. Was Master Gui Wu speaking up for Yi Luo? Does Wu look like someone who would joke? Zhou Mo hooked his arm around Gui Wu's shoulder as a bewitching smile appeared on his face. Using his profound energy, he said, "My family's Wu is someone you guys call the Grandmaster of the Golden Prophecy. Do you guys not believe his words?" The astonishment in everyone's eyes deepened. They indeed couldn't believe it, and were even more unwilling to believe it. However, young Master Mo was right. Master Gui Wu wasn't someone who would joke around. Master Gui Wu's golden prophecy had never been off the mark. How could the ghost martial grandmaster casually talk about Yi Luo's profound rank? Furthermore, earlier when Yi Qing Luo casually waved her sleeves, it was the method that took away dozens of Miao tribe guards. No matter how one looked at it, it was absolutely not something that an ordinary profound practitioner could accomplish. Those people who were discussing about Yi Qing Luo being an abandoned woman, etc. At this moment, all of them shut their mouths. The entire square was deathly silent. Yi Qing Luo expressed that in this era where the strong were revered, there is nothing more effective than showing off one's strength and using violence to curb violence. Coupled with Gui Wu's testimony, those people, no matter how much they hated her, had no choice but to obediently tuck their tails between their legs. Yi Qing Luo's move. Second Elder Miao was also stunned. Earth Profound 9th grade cultivators were terrifying. At 14 or 15 years old, their profound rank had already reached Earth Profound 9th grade. Those who were about to step into Sky Profound realm were even more terrifying. If Yi Luo was allowed to continue growing like this, in the future, wouldn't it mean that he would really surpass the Overlord? Second Elder Miao cautiously turned his eyes sideways as he looked towards Yin Zhunfei's direction. Chapter 2743. At this moment, a coquettish laughter came from the side. Second Elder Miao's position in the Miao tribe is just so. Even a little junior can order you around. Then a coquettish figure walked over. She had a curvaceous figure and a waist as slender as a willow snake. That young and tender face was extremely beautiful, and her eyes were full of seductive charm. It seems that our lore messenger has overestimated Second Elder Miao. Second Elder Miao's body stiffened. He looked at that woman with an ugly expression. Miss May, this is the eldest miss of the Miao tribe, a candidate for the Holy Maiden. If she can become the Holy Maiden, her position will naturally be higher than mine. May raised her eyebrows and smiled so seductively that everyone's eyes were glued to her. But now, she is not the Holy Maiden, is she? As soon as May finished speaking, Miao Yi's gaze fell on May. Miao Yi's lips curled into a distant but polite smile. Even if I am not the Holy Maiden of the Miao tribe now, I am still much nobler than a dog like you. After all, I am the eldest miss of the Meow tribe. You. May was enraged by Meow-E's rebuke. You dare to scold me. She raised her hand and slapped Meow-E's face. May was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, Meow-E did not even have time to react. He could only feel a sharp gust of cold wind falling on his face. Pah! A crisp sound of a slap. Everyone could only see an afterimage flying backward at high speed. Soon after, it heavily smashed into a drum on a high platform not far away. Rumble, the wooden high platform and drum shattered with a loud bang. Dust and smoke billowed everywhere. Wood splinters flew everywhere. That figure fell on the broken wood, crying out in pain. Around them, sounds of people sucking in cold breaths sounded out. Good hit. A little bitch like her, who doesn't have any ability but still wants to use her status to speak rudely, deserves to be hit. Sun Yutong, Yin Junfei, and the other guards of the Palace of Darkness also walked over. As soon as Sun Yutong's voice fell, he then heard the sweet laughter of a young girl. Miss Sun is right. He does deserve to be beaten. This voice, Sun Yutong's expression froze. His eyes quickly looked in the direction of the laughter. After the profound chi dispersed, a young girl dressed in red looked at her with a light smile. And standing behind that girl was none other than Meow-E, who had been slapped by Plum just now. No, wasn't Meow-E sent flying by May's slap? What about May? After the crowd saw a Meow-E behind Yiqing Luo, he suddenly seemed to understand something. One by one, they quickly turned their eyes to the collapsed high platform and the beating of the drums. When the dust settled, the figure lying on the ground was revealed, trembling nonstop. Her thin and elegant dress hung loosely on her body. It revealed a red undergarment embroidered with peonies. Her fair skin had an obvious curve to it, big and soft, together with the beauty of the peony. It makes one's blood swell. The eyes of many men in the crowd almost emitted the light of wolves. The ladies' attention naturally wouldn't be on these. They clearly saw that on May's delicate and beautiful face, there was a bright red palm print, which was obvious. Yiqing Luo raised her hand lazily. Her slender fingers gently stroked her palm. Chapter 2744. You? How could you? Sun Yutong was startled. Thinking back to what she had just said, her face turned deathly pale. She hurriedly looked in May's direction and eagerly tried to explain. Sister May, I'm not talking about you. It's her. What's the point of explaining all that to her? Yin Junfei tugged on Sun Yutong's arm in exasperation. Being humiliated like this in front of so many people, you've really thrown this envoy's face away. Saying that, she didn't even bother to take a look at Plum as she walked towards Yiqing Luo directly. Yin Junfei's steps were slow. In everyone's eyes, it felt like every step Yin Junfei took was like an invisible mountain pressing down on her. It was so heavy that they couldn't breathe. The surrounding guests' reverence towards Yin Junfei and the Palace of Gloomy Darkness instantly surged, as expected of the emissary of the Abyss Palace. His aura was so oppressive. However, on Yiqing Luo's face, there wasn't a single ripple of emotions. Her eyes were calm, and the corners of her mouth curled up into a faint smile. Yin Junfei stopped in front of Yiqing Luo. Under the veil, the pair of eyes seemed as though they were dipped in poison as they stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Miss Yi, under my eyes, you dare to hit my people. Don't tell me. Don't put my Palace of Darkness in your eyes. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as the ridicule in her eyes deepened. Sure enough, it was as she had guessed. Yin Junfei had no real power in Gloomy Palace. She had to have a legitimate reason to make a move. A reason related to the Palace of Darkness. Otherwise, if Yin Junfei casually made a move on her, she would definitely die. The Palace of Darkness probably wouldn't stand up for him. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as she scoffed. Secluded palace? She chuckled and murmured those three words. Soon after, she raised her charming eyes. Her face still hung with her evil smile. That's right. I really don't care about the Palace of Darkness. And I don't care about you. the so-called messenger of the Palace of Darkness. Her voice was soft. Her tone was also very gentle. He did not have any extra emotions. However, the crowd could feel that it was a feeling of extreme disdain. Yin Junfei's eyes instantly turned black. She gritted her teeth and said, "Yi Luo, do you still think that you have His Majesty to back you up? Let me tell you, in less than half a month, the secluded Darkness Palace will become the #1 palace in the Nirvana realm." When Di Zun was mentioned, Yin Junfei's eyes flashed. Her vision went past Yi Qing Luo and fell onto the tall and handsome man behind Yi Qing Luo, who looked like a deity. The man was wearing a mask that covered half of his face. But in terms of his aura, he was definitely not an ordinary person. Even though the man was just standing there, he exuded an aura of a monarch descending from the heavens. Compared to the people he met in the Abyss Palace, he was much stronger. This person looked even more mesmerizing. Such an outstanding man. How could I become the subject of that slut Yi Luo? Yin Junfei suppressed the jealousy in her eyes and continued maliciously, "Oh, right. I forgot that you still have the Castle Master of Death God Castle as your backing." Yin Junfei deliberately raised her voice, so much so that the guests who were standing nearer to them all heard what Yin Junfei said. Immediately, it exploded into an uproar. Death God Castle Master? Zhu Wu Xian? That unapproachable, mysterious, and unfathomable Zhu Wu Xian? That iceberg-like man was Yi Luo's backing. Chapter 2745, which meant to say, Yi Luo not only seduced the overlord, he also hooked up with this mysterious nobleman, and even offended Death God Castle's castle lord. Every single one of them were characters who could shake the entire Nirvana realm if they stood out. All of them have been hooked up by Yi Luo. This Yi Luo, what ability did he have? To be able to attract so many noble and outstanding men? Everyone's gazes towards Yi Qing Luo were filled with shock and disdain. Yin Junfei gave a satisfied, cold smile. After her face was covered by the veil, only her two eyes were revealed, and the emotions it revealed were especially obvious. Yin Junfei's gaze fell onto Dmo Xian. That young master. You probably don't know what kind of person the lady in front of you is? Before you, she had climbed onto the overlord's bed. Moreover, to be able to make Death God Castle's castle lord personally say she's mine. Now, she's so intimate with you. She paused as her beautiful eyes curved and her voice revealed a trace of bewitchment. She got close to you, just to cling on to your power. Don't be used by her. Yin Junfei's words made the surrounding guests even more heated discussions, especially those ladies who were jealous of Yi Luo for having 3 outstanding men. The words that came out of their mouths were simply unbearable to listen to. All of them were fanning the flames, just to infuriate the new sugar daddy that Yi Luo had hooked up with. Then to see Yi Luo being abandoned by the sugar daddy in front of everyone. But the crowd's discussions and Yin Junfei's intentional bewitchment words didn't make the main character in their mouths change her expression at all. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as her smile was very shallow, not reaching her eyes. Following that, her pink lips moved slightly as she spat out a few words. Before she could finish her words, Yin Junfei's complacent smile instantly dissipated as her expression turned sinister. Shut up. You shut up for this envoy. The clamorous discussions stopped abruptly. No one understood why the envoy from Gloomy Palace suddenly flew into a rage. Yin Junfei's chest was heaving up and down. Apparently, she was extremely angry. Yi Qing Luo gave a melodious chuckle. Miss Yin, secluded Darkness Palace has been manipulating public opinion recently, creating numerous rumors about me, splashing dirty water on me. Now, he even did not hesitate to smear my name at the Miao Tribe's Saintess selection ceremony. I'm kind-hearted and don't intend to bicker with you. However, my character is that I can't tolerate anyone bullying the people I care about. There was a hint of laughter in her voice. His tone was also light and indifferent, without the slightest fluctuation. This is my fiancé. Miss Yin is smearing my feelings for my fiancé. This really makes me very curious about Miss Yan's goal. Yiqing Luo paused for a moment, as the corners of her eyes rose into a narrow arc. Could it be that Miss Yin has taken a fancy to my fiancé and is trying to sow discord between me and my fiancé, so as to take the opportunity to rise up? Yin Junfei's hands under her sleeves clenched into fists. The surrounding guests were once again in an uproar because of Yiqing Luo's words. What did Yi Luo mean? Her dark deeds were intentionally led by secluded Darkness Palace? A person's heart was easily swayed by different opinions. At this moment, Yi Luo's words made them start to guess if Yi Luo's words were true or not. Sun Yutong saw the situation going out of control once again as she anxiously looked towards Yin Junfei. Chapter 2746. Sun Yutong was anxious as she clenched her teeth. Yi Luo, what you said is ridiculous. Would the Palace of Darkness target you to manipulate the rumors and public opinion? Who do you think you are? Immediately following that, she quickly continued. Furthermore, why are there so many rumors surrounding you? Isn't it because there's a problem with your character? It's a fact that you've been abandoned by the Overlord. It's also a fact that you've brought your so-called fiancé here to show off. You've just been abandoned by the Overlord for a short period of time, and you've already found your next family, even calling him fiancé. If this isn't fickle, then what is? Sun Yutong's words made the surrounding guests nod their heads in agreement. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a faint cold arc, as though she was smiling, but it didn't reach her eyes. Her brows were filled with a deathly stillness. That's right. I'm also very curious. Why would the Palace of Darkness, which sounds like it's going to boast to the heavens, purposely target a weak lady like me, using such a despicable method? Yiqing Luo touched her chin in puzzlement as she raised her eyes to look at Yin Junfei. Miss Yin, what do you think? That word, Yin, had just left her mouth. Yin Junfei's body suddenly stiffened. After Yiqing Luo's words ended, Yin Junfei's face under the veil was covered in a haze. Damn slut. Yi Luo thought that she had caught hold of her weakness, so she could throw her weight around in front of her, and even tried to use this secret to threaten her. She would absolutely not give Yi Luo a chance to reveal the secret. The intense murderous intent disappeared in a flash. Yin Junfei's brows had already regained her arrogance. Before today, I don't even know you. The Palace of Darkness will absolutely not do such a disgraceful thing. Yiqing Luo burst out laughing when she heard that. Then, Miss Yin, can you be sure that the people around you won't make use of the Palace of Darkness to manipulate the public opinion? As she was laughing, her gaze fell on a Mei who was standing up in a sorry state, frantically tidying herself up. Yin Junfei's gaze also looked over. Instantly, her face turned slightly pale. Her tightly clenched fingers uncontrollably tightened. Yiqing Luo continued to smile. After all, it's not the first time that Miss Yin has been treated as a puppet, isn't it? Yin Junfei trembled with anger. Their conversation wasn't soft at all. The surrounding guests saw that Yin Junfei didn't refute Yiqing Luo's guess. All of them couldn't help but look at Mei. They were not fools. Even if it was easy to waver, it wasn't without reason. After all, Yiqing Luo had been abandoned by the Overlord. The news spread like wildfire in the Northern Ways continent for almost a month. If it wasn't for someone deliberately guiding him from the back, this matter would definitely not be a hot topic until now. Today, Yin Junfei's tacit agreement had verified Yiqing Luo's words. The rumors and public opinion were related to the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Yiqing Luo continued to smile. As for whether there's any problem with my character, this isn't something for Miss Yin and Miss Sun to worry about. Sun Yutong's face paled a few shades at this moment. After meeting Yiqing Luo's gaze, instinctively, she hid behind Yin Junfei. Yin Junfei clenched her fists tightly as her face under the veil turned green and red. Yi Luo, you're really great. Chapter 2747. Bang! Yi Qing Luo suddenly moved, and her figure was already standing in front of Yan Zhenfei. She grabbed Yan Zhenfei's wrist. It was extremely fast. It was so fast that no one could see it clearly. Yi Qing Luo had already pulled Yan Zhenfei and pressed her behind, onto the flagpole, which represented the Miao tribe. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were filled with malice as she lowered her body, as though she would pinch Yan Zhenfei to death in the next moment. Yan Zhenfei, you'd better dispel this thought. If you dare to touch them, your good days will come to an end. Yi Qing Luo's voice was very low. Only the two of them could hear it. Yan Zhenfei was frightened, her lips trembling. She didn't want to admit her fear of Yi Luo, but he couldn't deny it. Just now, Yi Luo's voice sounded like an Azura from the depths of hell. At this moment, Yan Zhenfei was stunned. In her mind, Yi Qing Luo's devastatingly beautiful face appeared, facing her, revealing a bloodthirsty, cold smile. Yan Zhenfei's heart trembled. His body could not stop trembling, ever since he became the emissary of the Palace of Darkness. It had been a long time since Yan Zhenfei had felt so helpless and terrified. She pursed her lips unwillingly as her back leaned against that flagpole, which wasn't considered thick. Being suppressed by Yi Qing Luo, that flagpole was almost embedded into her flesh. It hurt against her back. Do you understand? That enchanting voice drifted into his ears again. Yan Zhenfei's lips trembled, and she was about to agree. Out of the corner of his eye, he glanced around at the countless onlookers. He swallowed the words of begging for mercy that were at the tip of his tongue. Originally, Yan Zhenfei was thinking of borrowing the power of public opinion, using her identity as the Palace of Darkness's envoy to give Yi Qing Luo a show of strength. At least he could take revenge for the grievances he had suffered in Yi Qing Luo's hands. All the guests here wanted to build a relationship with her Palace of Darkness. As long as she asked, these guests would definitely make Yi Luo and the others feel suffocated. In the end, he retreated in defeat. Everything had clearly been set up. But now, she was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He couldn't just beg for mercy like this. He could not allow himself to be overwhelmed by Yi Luo's aura. She was the emissary of the Palace of Gloom. She represented the image of the gloomy palace. If she retreated, Umbra Palace would become a laughingstock. The Palace of Darkness would definitely not let her off so easily. Thinking of such a harem, Yan Zhenfei held her breath. No matter how afraid she was of Yi Luo, she couldn't compare to the terror of Gloomy Palace. She suppressed the fear in her heart and tried her best to look calm. Yi Luo, do you care about those people that much? Don't tell me you don't know. That group of people are the dogs raised by the main character, Yi Qing Luo. Night Qing Luo. This name was not unfamiliar to the surrounding guests. After all, it was related to Yi Qing Luo's deeds. The news had already spread throughout the streets and alleys of the Nirvana realm. Everyone was in an uproar. What did this have to do with Yi Qing Luo? Following that, he heard Yan Zhenfei's ridiculing voice ringing. Have you imitated Yi Qing Luo for too long that you're too immersed in your character? Now, even Yi Qing Luo's dog also wants to learn from Yi Qing Luo, protecting it? Ha! A slap landed on Yan Zhenfei's face. Yi Qing Luo used brute force as the expression on her face was cold and her eyes were filled with a chilly glint. Only scum like you, who likes to be a dog, will think that everyone you meet is a dog. Chapter 2748. The people she cared about were her reverse scale. She couldn't tolerate anyone saying a bad word about her. Especially, she was comparing her brother to a dog. This slap was thrown with extreme force. Even though Yan Zhenfei was wearing a veil, it wasn't difficult to tell that her face was already red and swollen. You? How dare you? Sun Yutong's eyes widened in shock when she saw that. Someone actually dare to hit Sister Yin? Sister Yin was the envoy of Abyss Palace. That Luo, wasn't he afraid of Abyss Palace's revenge? How dare I? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she looked at her with an evil smile. This is called being presumptuous? You haven't seen anything more presumptuous. Sun Yutong was frightened by her gaze as she retreated a few steps. Just at this moment, not knowing when, Mei had already dashed over and pounced towards Yiqing Luo with all her might. She didn't care about her messy appearance as her entire body pounced towards Yiqing Luo, who was dragging Yin Jinfei. Following that, Mei turned her head around and shouted sternly at the row of Abyss Palace's guards behind her. What are you all still in a daze for? Seeing your own master being humiliated by a little slut, yet you still don't know how to take action? As she was saying that, Mei used her body to separate the distance between Yin Junfei and Yiqing Luo. Following that, she exerted strength as both her hands wrapped tightly towards Yiqing Luo. Yin Junfei took the opportunity to take a step back, retreating out of Yiqing Luo's attack range. Her body swayed unsteadily. Sun Yutong immediately went up to support her as she asked softly, "Sister Yin, are you all right?" Yin Junfei grabbed Sun Yutong's arm tightly as she stabilized her body. Her eyes were gloomy as she didn't take a look at Sun Yutong, but stared straight at Yiqing Luo's direction. Mei's sudden attack was out of Yiqing Luo's expectations. Yiqing Luo didn't manage to react in time as she was pounced on by Mei's arms. His entire person was pushed back a few steps. Yiqing Luo frowned as she raised her hand and locked onto Mei's wrist, trying to pull her away. Mei clenched her teeth tightly as she increased her strength. She continued to shout sternly, "Envoy Yin, quick! Order your guards to attack." Yin Junfei was startled. She instinctively looked towards the dozen or so guards wearing black robes with the word "You" embroidered on their chests and sleeves. She pursed her lips and her eyes flickered. She seemed to understand Plum's meaning and became determined. "You guys, why don't you go and bring that little bitch who doesn't respect the Palace of Darkness out?" The dozen guards shifted their gazes to Yin Junfei in unison. Yin Junfei's face was stiff as she sneered. "If Gloomy Palace's reputation is damaged, can you bear the responsibility?" The dozen or so guards trembled when they heard this. Following that, he speedily headed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. A smug sneer flashed across Yin Junfei's eyes. The minute those guards struck, Yiqing Luo felt the surrounding air forming an extremely strong pressure. Her expression changed slightly. Just as he was about to dodge the incoming pressure, a voice suddenly rang out. His waist was tightly wrapped by Mei's hands. "Let go!" Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she forcefully tried to pry Mei's hands away. Mei's beautiful and charming face had already become distorted. Her voice was hoarse as she couldn't help but laugh coldly. "Yi Luo, as long as I capture you, I still have a chance. You absolutely cannot snatch away what belongs to me." Chapter 2749. The matter of Mei making use of Yin Junfei was pointed out clearly by Yiqing Luo, and also successfully sowed discord between her and Yin Junfei. If Mei still wanted to have a place in front of Yin Junfei, this was indeed Mei's only chance. Risking her life, using her own body to save Yin Junfei, and using this to let Yin Junfei issue an order to the Palace of Darkness's guards to establish her own position. As long as the Palace of Darkness's guards made a move, earlier Yin Junfei's wretched state would be covered up. Everyone would only remember Palace of Darkness's power and power. She had to admit that this young lady called Mei was rather intelligent. Yiqing Luo's eyes dimmed as her gaze landed on Mei's open collar, revealing that round bosom. The smile on her lips turned colder by several degrees. "Miss Mei, I don't know how to have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex." Her voice was like a demonic charm, making one aghast. Mei's heart suddenly constricted fiercely, only to hear a "Kacha" sound of bones breaking. Mei's expression instantly turned ghastly pale. The hands which were on Yi Qing Luo's body drooped down weakly. At the same time, Yi Qing Luo raised her leg as she kicked Mei's abdomen fiercely. Mei's body flew towards the direction where the guards came from. Those 10 over guards were swift, and their abilities were unfathomable. Just at the instant when Mei leapt away, 10 over figures turned into numerous remnant images. Naked eyes were unable to capture them. Those 10 over guards had already appeared around Yi Qing Luo, wrapping Yi Qing Luo within. And that Mei, who originally flew towards the guards, directly rolled onto the ground. Sister Mei, Sun Yutong saw Mei rolling several times on the ground as she cried out involuntarily. She was about to walk towards Mei's direction, but she thought of something as her footsteps paused slightly as she hesitated. Yin Junfei shot a glance at Mei as her eyes dimmed, as an unknown emotion surged. "You go over." Sun Yutong's eyes shone as she speedily jogged towards Mei. Mei's internal organs felt a tearing pain from the fall. Large mouthfuls of blood gushed out from her mouth. But her hands were broken by Yi Qing Luo, and the slightest movement would cause a heart-wrenching pain. Sister Mei. Sun Yutong immediately squatted down beside her and fed the pill in her hand into Mei's mouth. Plum's eyes were lifeless and unfocused. After a long while, he finally saw Sun Yutong clearly. A glimmer of light gradually appeared in her eyes. His body was also trembling slightly. Her lips moved as she silently spat out a few words. "Why, Messenger Yin? Forgive me." "Sister Mei, don't talk. Take a rest first." Sun Yutong carefully supported Mei's head and said in a low voice, "Big Sister Yin allowed me to come and bring you medicine." The light in Mei's eyes grew brighter. She wanted to laugh, but she couldn't muster up any strength. Little by little, her heart felt at ease. Fortunately, she succeeded. As long as he could stand firmly by Yin Feifei's side, she would definitely be able to climb over Yin Feifei's head with her own abilities. For his own future, in order to take back what belonged to her, she had to stay calm. The sacred maiden grand ceremony's public square had mysteriously turned into a battlefield. However, the surrounding crowd didn't dare to open their mouths to stop her. Chapter 2750. Second, what should we do? Fourth Elder Meow looked at Elder Meow anxiously. Second Elder Meow's expression was solemn as he shook his head. No one can stop the people from the Palace of Darkness from attacking. Are we just going to let them hit us? Fourth Elder Meow frowned. If they continue to fight, not only will they scare the guests who are rushing over, it will also delay the Saintess election. The Palace of Darkness. Second Elder Meow's gaze fell on the young lady who was surrounded by a dozen guards. We can't stop them. Now, why not take the opportunity to see how powerful the Palace of Darkness is? And he paused, his gaze deepening. That young lady who has already entered the 9th level of the Earth Profound Realm at such a young age, how much potential does she have? Fourth Elder Meow paused, carefully considering Second Elder Meow's words. Suddenly, Fourth Elder Meow felt a weight on his shoulder. A huge palm pressed down heavily. Then he heard a hurried voice from behind him. "What do you mean, see the power of the Palace of Darkness? See Yi Luo's potential?" She was invited to participate in the Saintess selection of the Meow tribe. Now that she is in danger, as the host, this is your attitude? The man's voice was very loud. In this silent and solemn atmosphere, it was extremely clear. Everyone turned their gazes toward Zhang Xian. Even Yin Zhun Fei's gaze shifted over. Young Lord Gu, Second Elder Meow, saw the person's face and called out in a low voice. Then he said, "Young Lord Gu, it's better if you don't interfere in this matter." This person was Gu Jingyu. His handsome face was filled with anger at this moment. He pressed one hand on Fourth Elder Meow's body and the other on Second Elder Meow's body. "If I don't interfere, then are the two elders not going to interfere? Letting our guests be treated like this in our own territory, is this how the Meow tribe treats their guests?" Gu Jingyu's voice was filled with anger. You've broadened my horizons. Second Elder Meow's face was ashen. Most of the guests around them had noticed the commotion on their side. Second Elder Meow's face darkened. If they interfered, they would definitely offend the Palace of Darkness. The current Meow tribe was definitely no match for the Palace of Darkness. If he didn't intervene, that also confirmed Gu Jingyu's words. The guests who were invited couldn't even guarantee the safety of the guests in their own territory. The reputation of the Meow tribe would definitely be ruined. Moreover, seeing how much Gu Jingyu cared about Yi Luo, something happened to Yi Luo in the Meow tribe. Gu Jingyu would never let the Meow people off. It was a dilemma. The few elders of the Meow tribe present were all unable to open their mouths to reply. Just then, Yanjun Fei's arrogant and contemptuous voice rang out unhurriedly. What is the relationship between young sect Master Gu and Miss Yi? Why are you so concerned about Miss Ye's matter? Gu Jingyu's sullen expression immediately froze. Yanjun Fei caught this, and her smile grew. She deliberately glanced at the tall and slender figure standing beside Yin Xiao, Yi, and the rest. He smiled meaningfully. Young Lord Gu, look, Lady Ye's fiancé didn't say anything, but why are you so agitated? Chapter 2751. You, what nonsense are you sprouting? Gu Jingyu's face instantly flushed red. His hands instinctively retracted back from the two Miao clan elders. Envoy Yin, I am merely standing on the standpoint of a friend to discuss this matter. But you said it in such a vile manner. What intentions do you have? Gu Jingyu was after all the young sect master of Gufeng's sect. His brain worked extremely fast. The expression on his face gradually revealed a warning and cold expression. Invisibly, a thick aura surged from his surroundings. While his long robe, the wind billows, flapping noisily. This powerful aura made Yanjun Fei's expression change slightly. All the guards had already surrounded Yi Qing Luo's surroundings. There was no one else protecting her. If Gu Jingyu really made a move on her, Yanjun Fei pursed her lips tightly and laughed loudly. Whether it's a friend or some other unspeakable relationship, young sect master Gu knows clearly in his heart. But this envoy will give young sect master Gu a piece of advice. Miss Ye's ability to seduce men is not small. The men beside her are not just you. Saying that, she flicked her sleeves and turned towards the direction of Sun Yutong and Mei, who was undergoing treatment, as she walked over. Yanjun Fei's sentence. It indeed gave one a lot of room for imagination. Furthermore, no matter how Gu Jingyu explained, it would inevitably make others suspicious of his relationship with Yi Luo, unless Gu Jingyu no longer spoke up for Yi Luo, or even worse, become enemies with Yi Luo. Then there was a possibility to change everyone's thoughts. After all, a man and a woman, how could they be friends? On the other side, Yi Qing Luo was surrounded by those 10 over-secluded palace's guards, trapping her within. Those guards' profound qi was chilly, like an icy, cold, venomous snake, winding around Yi Qing Luo bit by bit. This feeling made Yi Qing Luo's slender brows crease tightly. She knew that this group of secluded palace's guards were not ordinary guards. But at this moment, they had yet to make a move against them. Yi Qing Luo had already deeply felt the strangeness of these people. If it was an ordinary person, how could they possibly emit such chilly, profound qi? Simply, like a dead person, emitting that extremely rotten, dense aura of death. Yi Qing Luo was frightened by this thought of hers. She focused her gaze and carefully sized up the guard around her. However, he did not find anything strange. The guards of the Abyss Palace exchanged glances with one another. Without any hesitation, they made their move. More than 10 figures moved almost at the same time. Everyone could only see countless afterimages flitting through the air. As for the red figure that was surrounded, it was instantly engulfed. There was no longer any sign of life. The surrounding guests all gasped in astonishment. They had just witnessed Yi Luo's strength. Moreover, Master Guo Wu had personally admitted that he was a ninth grade Earth Profound Realm Profound practitioner. But under the siege of the dozen or so guards of the Palace of Darkness, he couldn't even hold on for a breath of time. One could see how powerful the Palace of Gloomy Darkness was. What a pity for that genius girl. At the instance when Yiqing Luo's red figure completely disappeared from everyone's eyes, Gu Jingyu's body suddenly tensed up. His eyes widened as he looked in disbelief at the rolling sand and dust, the ripple-like profound energy, and that swaying in the air, totally unable to see the figure's afterimage. His heart seemed to be suppressed by something, so much that he was unable to breathe. Miss Yi, that bright and beautiful, flamboyant and reckless young lady. Chapter 2752. Gu Jingyu's body stiffened bit by bit. Bit by bit, from a slight tremble, it gradually became bigger and bigger. His heart was empty. His suppressed emotions made his nose feel a little sour. Boundless anger surged from his chest. At this moment, his mind was completely blank. His mind was filled with Yi Luo's smile and frown. Obviously, they had only met a few times. Why did he have such deep feelings for her? So deep that even he himself couldn't believe it. It was as though his thoughts were controlling his body. Gu Jingyu strode towards Dmo Xian's direction. He grabbed Dmo Xian's sleeve, baring his teeth and glaring at him. His entire face was contorted in anger. His eyes were red and the gentleness was long gone. Aren't you Yi Luo's fiancé? Why didn't you save her? Why didn't you stop him? Gu Jingyu's sudden action made the surrounding guests believe in Yin Zhenfei's words. Yin Xiaoyi heard the surrounding guest discussion. She frowned and was about to step forward to stop Gu Jingyu. The tall and slender man gently flicked the sleeve of his robe that was being pulled. In an instant, an invisible pressure came pouring down. The air around him seemed to be rioting at this moment. Gu Jingyu's hand had just touched Dmo Xian, but it was pushed away by this invisible wave. Gu Jingyu staggered for a while and almost fell to the ground. He didn't hurry to steady himself, but continued to stare at Dmo Xian with bloodshot eyes. His voice was hoarse. You're not fit to be Yi Luo's fiancé. If it's me, I won't bear to let her suffer any harm. Young Sect Master Gu. Yin Xiaoyi's face turned pale when she heard Gu Jingyu's words. She quickly berated him sternly. Young Sect Master Gu, please conduct yourself with dignity. Luo and Young Sect Master Gu are not related at all. Don't tell me you're trying to take the opportunity to ruin Luo's reputation by saying such misleading words. Gu Jingyu's eyes lit up for a moment. He stared blankly for a moment and lowered his eyes as he spoke in a hoarse voice. I'm just feeling indignant for Yi Luo. The square was deathly silent. The guests even stopped talking. What if Young Sect Master Gu and Miss Yi didn't have an affair? They wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell. Young Sect Master Gu's feelings for Miss Yi were very deep. Looks like Emissary Yin was right. Yi Luo was a promiscuous woman who could sleep with any man. Every outstanding man wanted to get close to her and become her backer. The reactions of the guests and the red figure that disappeared among the guards of the Palace of Darkness. This caused a smile on Yin Zhenfei's face to deepen. Although she was smiling, her eyes were terrifyingly sinister. He could almost see her distorted facial features under the veil. Damn little slut. A counterfeit dared to strut around in front of her, the emissary of the Palace of Darkness. And he even tried to threaten her with her weakness? Now, she wanted to see if that fake still had any life left to threaten her. Everyone in the world who knew her identity deserved to die. All of them must die. Now a fake had died. Next was Yin Xiaoyi, her dear sister. Yin Zhenfei had already constructed a beautiful picture of the future in her mind. Just when everyone thought that the dust had settled, a voice suddenly rang out from the crowd. Suddenly, a deep, low, and hoarse voice rang out clearly in this silent atmosphere. Chapter 2753. Almost instinctively, the crowd looked in the direction of the voice respectfully. The man wearing half a mask, with a pair of black inky eyes, was deep and cold, without a single ripple. Just a gaze. It stunned the entire crowd. This was the aura of a real, strong man. Compared to the pretentious aura of the secluded palace, it made people submit from the bottom of their hearts. This man, who was he? Countless people's hearts raised this doubt. Yin Junfei, on the other side, also had her eyes glued on Immerse. In her eyes, there was an unconcealable yearning. Such a noble and powerful man. Only he could be worthy of her. This man was hers. Was hers. It could be said that all the ladies present had the same thought in their minds. They wanted to take him for themselves, but they also felt that he was sacred and noble, unattainable. At this moment, the man wearing half a mask opened his mouth again. His voice was bone-chilling. If Lil Luo can't defeat those people, I will naturally take action. His gaze slowly fell on Gu Jingyu. The icy cold, like December's frost, covered Gu Jingyu's body. DMO Xian continued. In this world, no one can hurt Lil Luo, or not even myself can't. His words ended. Both eyes had already returned to the place where they were surrounded by those 10 overguards. Just for a moment, the man's icy cold gaze was like the blooming of spring flowers. The smooth lines of his clean chin also at this moment softened. Such a huge contrast made everyone's reverence towards DMO Xian intensified. And when Gu Jingyu, Yin Junfei, and the rest heard DMO Xian's first sentence, their expressions were different. Gu Jingyu was stunned at first. His face, which was filled with anger, gradually calmed down. He stared blankly at the direction DMO Xian was looking at. This man's meaning was, he didn't make a move. Because Yi Luo was fine? Yi Luo. Fine. Yin Junfei's face also darkened. After realizing DMO Xian's words, she suddenly reacted to something. She immediately shouted sternly, "Come back, you bunch of trash. Come and protect this messenger." Hee. A light and melodious laughter rang in Yin Junfei's ears. It was a smile that seemed to have come from hell. Yin Junfei's body froze. It's too late. That laughter was softly spitting out words. The next moment, Yin Junfei felt a cold and soft finger around her neck. His nails were as sharp as blades. It was as if it could easily cut through her skin. It was the girl in red who had been surrounded and attacked by more than 10 guards of the Palace of Darkness and had been engulfed. When did she rush in front of Emissary Yin? What incredible speed! To be able to escape from such a tight encirclement and even subdue the emissary of the Palace of Darkness. The crowd had once again refreshed their view of Yiqing Luo's ability. When did you? Yin Junfei's throat was clutched, and it was difficult for her to speak. Yiqing Luo laughed beside her ear just now. There was a faint smile on her face. It was not the smug smile he had after escaping the encirclement of the guards. Nor was it the vengeful smile he had when he choked Yin Junfei. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.